subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Holding hand, and then hit Niji's head. This sudden attack caught Niji by surprise, especially since Red Claw was a well-trained physical artist, and he directly overwhelmed Niji in close combat. The pistol fell, and Niji was grabbed by her arm and thrown over her shoulder, slamming it against the wall. The violent collision made Niji scream. Just when she turned around and clamped Niji's arm with her legs, tried to twist it off with a twisting technique, the blade of the gauntlet on Niji's hand popped out and penetrated directly through her clenched palm. This sudden situation caught her off guard and her eyes widened. Niji took advantage of this moment to bump forward, flipping her to the ground and punching her. "Oh, you think I'm easy to mess with?" Chapter 41, Deadshot. The firelight of the slums illuminated half of Arkham. On the top floor of Arkham Asylum, the highest building in the Arkham district, a bald man in a white coat stood on top, holding a cup of coffee in his hand and looking at the fire over there. "It's such a beautiful scenery. It would be even better if the heat was bigger. Right, Miss Talia?" He turned around and smiled. His smooth head looked a little reflective against the distant flames. There was a ring of beard on his face, and he also wore a pair of small glasses on the bridge of his nose. On his white coat was his identification tag, Psychiatrist Hugo Strange. "Mr. Strange, we are not that close." Talia al Ghul, who was wearing a tight leather jacket and her hair in a ponytail, had a cold look on her face. Hugo Strange reluctantly picked up the coffee cup, took another sip, and squinted his eyes to look at Gotham City in the distance. "Please pay tribute to Master Lei Xiaogu for me. Gotham will be my gift to him. I also hope that the League of Assassins can come here. I will tell him, but his proud disciple is also in Gotham. If you want to inherit the Assassins League, you must deal with him first." Talia clasped her hands on her chest and did not pay any attention to the psychiatric expert in front of her. Instead, she cast a curious gaze on the place where the fire was burning. "Don't worry, we'll be solved." Hugo Strange smiled confidently, as if he had already seen the day when he would join the League of Assassins. Black Gate Prison, with its heavy and majestic black iron doors wide open, criminals in orange uniforms ran out of the prison cheering like a party. Several prison guards were caught by the prisoners and thrown from the towering city wall. They let out a series of screams and fell heavily into the water. Just as a group of escaped criminals laughed and ran across the bridge, the black Batmobile turned on its dazzling high beam and rushed over quickly. No. The criminals were illuminated by the dazzling car lights and screamed like vampires exposed to the sun. They quickly raised their hands to cover themselves. But the roar of the engine gradually approached, frightening them out of their wits. What's more, they were so frightened that they sat down on the ground. Batman in the car looked at the criminals running out, raised his hand, and clicked a few times on the function button on the side. There was a muffled sound, and a large black net flew out from the hidden launch hole of the Batmobile. The criminals on the steel bridge in front were covered by a large net, struggling fiercely like a school of fish caught in a fishing net. Some criminals bite the rope with their teeth in an attempt to escape. Unfortunately, this is not a fishing net, let alone something that can be chewed with teeth. When Batman passed by in the Batmobile, he reached out and pressed an electric shock button. The criminal on the bridge outside let out a scream. The large black net concealed metal wires and current devices, which instantly made their whole bodies numb and stiff. The criminal in front looked at the Batmobile rushing towards him and had no choice but to jump off the bridge. The plop is like dumplings. In front of him was the gate of Black Gate Prison. Batman turned the steering wheel and turned the Batmobile sideways, blocking it in front of the gate. The roof of the Batmobile was raised, and Batman got out of the car. The damaged cape behind him had been replaced. He looked up at the chaotic prison and the office building with fierce gunshots. In the office building, the warden, staff, and guards of Blackgate Prison were all tied up and thrown into the utility room. The new gang leader, Black Mask, is giving an induction speech to new employees, instilling chicken soup for the soul. As a paid bodyguard, Deadshot was passing the time tracing human bodies with an M9 pistol. Real body tracing. There were constant gunshots, and the prison guard standing by the wall with his arms tied was so frightened that he couldn't hold his legs and wet his pants. The bullet whizzed past his body, leaving a bullet hole in the wall and tracing the outline of a human body. As soon as the gunfire stopped, the prison guard sat on the ground with weak legs. The gunfire rang out again. The bullet flew past his scalp and knocked off a few strands of hair. The prison guard rolled his eyes and passed out. Deadshot was tired, and after drawing a human body outline again, he blew the gun smoke from a muzzle and picked up the M4 assault rifle specially equipped by the prison guard on the table. Another burst of shooting at the clock on the wall. Every shot hits the numbers on the clock dial. This extraordinary accuracy and proficiency with firearms. He is very famous in the world of killers and mercenaries. The only thing that is worse is his luck. He has been having a hard time recently. There was a bang, the window glass shattered, and a black hook was thrown in, and it hooked on the radiator and tightened suddenly. Deadshot noticed it right away. He wore a red laser sight on his eye and looked out the window to lock the target. The M4 assault rifle in hand can quickly change the magazine. Just as he was approaching, the ceiling of the ceiling suddenly collapsed, and a black figure fell from the sky, hit him, and threw him to the ground. This sudden attack made Deadshot break into a cold sweat. What the hell? Why did it appear from the ceiling? Before he could react, the black shadow swung his cloak back with both hands, like spreading wings, blowing away the lime dust that fell from the collapsed ceiling. Only then did Deadshot realize that the person in front of him was a person, a pointed-eared bat wearing a black suit. He quickly glanced at the ceiling again and found that the ceiling was an old-fashioned partition with a layer of space above it. I don't know if he was sure that the other person was a human, or if his nervousness was relieved. Deadshot raised his leg and kicked Batman, and at the same time reached for the gun and prepared to shoot. Batman suddenly stepped back, yanking the cape behind him and swinging it again. A layer of dry lime dust lifted up from the ground and suddenly landed on Deadshot's face. Thanks to the mask on his face, Deadshot was not choked by the dust, but the situation was even worse. His laser sight was covered in dust, and he couldn't see anything. You can only shoot based on intuition, pull the trigger directly, and pay attention to the surrounding sounds with your ears. Bang, 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 bang. The continuous fire of the 9mm caliber pistol shattered the surrounding glass, overturned the tables and chairs. The fish tank on the desk shattered with a crash, and the small goldfish in the water fell to the ground. He just jumped up and flicked his tail and was beaten to a pulp by the whizzing bullets. When the gunfire stopped, Deadshot quickly raised his hand to wipe the aiming glasses on his face, and he could just see the accuracy of his surroundings. There was a click, and there was a power outage. The entire office building was without power. The room was pitch dark, with only the moonlight coming from the window, still giving a faint light and shadow. Floyd Lawton Jr. As soon as the sound sounded, a series of bullets flew over. This was Deadshot's response. "Who? Stop pretending. I saw you." Deadshot looked at the dark surroundings with some fear, and the infrared heat sensing mode of the laser sight was activated. This was high-tech that he got from an experimental base when he left the army, but he didn't see anything. The pointed-eared bat seemed to be invisible. Although he couldn't see it, Deadshot's intuition told him that the bat was here, in this room. Deadshot moved towards the wall, intending to lean against the wall to reduce his weakness. When he got close to the wall, a big hole was punched directly into the wall. Batman, who had an exoskeleton supercharger on his hand, smashed through the wall and grabbed Deadshot by the collar. It hit the wall with a clang. The sudden impact made Deadshot dizzy. He raised his gun and fired a burst of shots at the outside of the cave. But there are no more people. Fake. What is this? Deadshot was a little scared. What the hell? He even wondered if he was dreaming. When he woke up, he would see himself still lying in the cell in Metropolis. It's not a good place to stay for a long time. Deadshot quickly turned around and ran towards the window. The best choice was to leave here. When he stepped on the window, a black noose suddenly tightened and wrapped around his ankle. With a quick pull, he was hung upside down. Before he could shoot and break the rope, Batman emerged from the window and punched him in the face. The punch was very heavy, but Deadshot actually felt a little relieved at the moment. Another punch hit him, and he passed out. Chapter 42 Blackgate Prison. When there was a power outage in the office building, Black Mask led the people to evacuate the office building in a hurry. He turned around worriedly before getting in a car. The result was that he was hung upside down upstairs. Deadshot Norton was still illuminated by the flashlight. The scene looked like an art painting, which even stunned Black Mask. But he immediately realized that the super thugs he hired had all been dealt with. This was something wrong. Drive! Hurry! Black Mask shouted to the front. The car they were driving was a tanker truck used by Blackgate Prison to transport prisoners. It had a high level of bulletproof resistance, but there are still people who haven't come up yet. The new employees in the carriage quickly said that there were indeed 2 employees who went to pick up the packed firearms. We are still halfway there, and we can already see silhouettes of people. The Black Mask stared and looked at the driver in front of him. The driver shrank his neck in fear and quickly started the car. The 2 employees who were running towards us with gun bags saw the car starting up and quickly raised their hands and shouted, "Wait for us." Black Mask looked over there with a cold face, took out a .44 caliber Colt revolver from his arms, and pulled the trigger at the 2 late employees. His shooting skills were very good. Bang, bang, 2 gunshots. The heads of the 2 employees were torn apart like watermelons smashed by a hammer. "Drive!" Black Mask put away his revolver and said in a deep voice. The car was silent and scary. With cold sweat on his head, the driver stepped on the accelerator, held the steering wheel, and drove the tanker truck away from here. Even his breathing became much lighter. The unruly felons in the carriage were now as quiet as sleeping babies, without any of the arrogance they had before. Only now did they realize that the new boss they were following didn't have a very good temper. At the gate of Blackgate Prison, the Batmobile was parked sideways, blocking the entire road, making it impossible for the tanker truck to drive out. "This boss can't get out." The driver spoke softly, like a little girl who shrank when meeting a stranger for fear of making Black Mask angry. Black Mask did not speak, but his eyelids twitched, and the car was silent for 3 seconds. "Get the car in front of you out of the way." Just when Black Mask was giving the order, a figure suddenly fell on the windshield in front of the tank truck and punched the windshield. The bulletproof windshield instantly shattered into a spider web. The driver was frightened and opened his mouth to scream. Then he remembered the Black Mask behind him and quickly reached out to cover his mouth. Black Mask was startled by this sudden scene, but he immediately reacted, "Kill him." The car door opened, and the new employees behind them immediately got out of the car. They didn't bring many firearms, but they were very handy with crowbars, police batons, and kitchen knives they got from the kitchen. These new employees are all gang members, serious criminals who have been sentenced to at least 20 years at least. No one asked a judge or lawyer to protect them because they did not belong to any major gang. That's why Black Mask chose to recruit these people. They are absolute elite forces of the underworld, and they're also at the level of prison bullies in Blackgate Prison. Bang, 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 bang. Gunshots rang out, and a convicted felon with a pistol pulled the trigger on Batman, standing in front of the car. The yellow logo on Batman's chest became the most conspicuous target, and bullets hit it and caused sparks. The thick breastplate was not afraid of this kind of firepower. Batman rushed over like an invulnerable and indestructible Superman and grabbed the shooting hand. With a click, the new employee screamed, and his thumb was broken off and stuck to the back of his hand. When dealing with these criminals, Batman is not polite at all. He uses the martial arts he has been practicing to eliminate the most enemies in the shortest time. Not killing is his bottom line, but instead of letting these guys feel that there's an opportunity, he will make these guys feel the dark fear from the bottom of their hearts and become a permanent nightmare. There were screams one after another. A new employee who sneaked up from behind with a hook crowbar was kicked in the crotch by Batman's hind legs. The man's face was twisted in pain, his mouth was crooked, the crowbar in his hand fell to the ground. He covered his crotch and collapsed on the ground. Just when Batman turned around and opened the car door, Black Mask, who had been holding back in the car, pulled the trigger. The car door opens, bang. Even Batman's thickened bulletproof breastplate couldn't bear the .44 caliber Magnum bullet fired at close range. and he fell backwards to the ground due to the force of the impact. Black Mask sneered and moved outward with the revolver. He really knew a little bit about this black bat. If this big bat hadn't disrupted the underworld order in Gotham City, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to do big things. Just get him a ride here. Black Mask stretched the pistol out of the car, pointed it at Batman's head, and whispered, "Bye." When his finger pulled the trigger, Black Mask seemed to be able to see Batman's head being torn apart. Batman, who was lying on the ground, opened his eyes and kicked Black Mask's wrist. With a bang, the gun rang out. But it was shot in the sky. Black Mask's wrist hurt, and the muzzle of the gun unconsciously pointed upwards, and the shot was empty. Black Mask quickly adjusted the muzzle of his gun, but what followed was Batman's fist, which hit him hard in the face. The mask made of ebony is very strong, but Batman's fists are obviously harder, and the face behind the mask is not so strong. With a thud, the nose of the Black Mask broke, and blood spurted out from the nostrils, sliding down the inside of the ebony mask. Batman reached out to take off the ebony mask, and Black Mask struggled and kicked Batman away during their scuffle. The jar containing fear gas slipped from Black Mask's pocket. Upon seeing this, Black Mask gritted his teeth and reached out to unscrew the jar, and the green gas inside instantly spurted out. Black Mask and Batman in the car all inhaled the fear gas, causing hallucinations and the fear in their hearts to emerge. Batman saw the bat coming towards him and quickly reached out to swat it to block it, his breathing becoming more and more rapid. And Black Mask saw fire, fire, overwhelming fire everywhere, and his parents in the fire. "No, you are dead. I didn't kill you. No, I didn't. Black Mask shouted in panic, lying on the ground, shaking his hands like a child who had done something wrong. Batman gasped and shook his head. He had a little resistance to the effects of this initial fear gas. This may be because he had experienced this kind of hallucinatory fear in the Assassin's League under the guidance of the leader of demons, Lei Xiaogu. He climbed out of the car, and the sound of police cars sounded outside. He knew he had to leave here. Batman got up tiredly and staggered towards the Batmobile. The top cover of the Batmobile opened. Batman got in, started the automatic navigation, and pointed to the Batcave. The Batmobile's roof closed, the lights came on, the engine started, and it turned around and drove towards the road, running rampant and scaring an oncoming police car into a ditch. Not long after the Batmobile left, there was an explosion at the entrance of Blackgate Prison, and the scene was in flames. He covered his face with a wailing black mask and was held up by two new employees and jumped into the river to escape. Chapter 43, Red Claw. Come on, give me another one. Be cruel. Meow Moo squatted on the ground, holding a flashlight and tapping Hong Zhao's forehead like a monk tapping a wooden fish, making a clanging sound. Red Claw was so angry that she couldn't shout or curse because Niji stuffed the boots on her feet in her mouth. There was a rope wrapped around her body, and she was also tied with an extremely humiliating tortoiseshell binding. If the rope was loosened, Red Claw swears, "I must kill this BCH in front of me. This BCH is even more hateful than that bat. It's a pity that the BCH in front of her has no awareness of this." Instead of killing her directly with a gun, Niji did it because of the claw tattoo on her shoulder. Because that tattoo looks familiar, but Niji hasn't remembered yet. This is the mark, but it feels like it has something to do with ninjas. Meowji turned on the flashlight and adjusted it to the strong light mode. It suddenly hit Hong Zhao's eyes. The strong light stung her eyes, and she burst into tears, and she quickly started to struggle. "Let me ask you an answer. If you dare to lie, have you seen the back?" Niji pointed at the street behind him. Gunfire continued. The police had begun to attack. Jerry and his men kicked open the door and fired without any scruples. Red Claw stared, wanting to eat him alive. Niji reached out and pulled the shoe out her mouth. "You are that force. Damn it, you are a dog." As soon as Meow Moo asked, Hong Zhao moved his jaw and bit him. Meowji was so frightened that he jumped up and kicked Hong Zhao in the face. He took out his revolver and pointed it at the sky. It lit up and poked the hot barrel into her face. "Don't be so shameless," Niji shouted murderously. If she dared to do anything, or even speak, again, I would kill her. He doesn't have Batman's noble bottom line of not killing. If you dare to offend him, you'll have to report to hell first. Red Claw stared, gritting his teeth and gasping. Let me ask you one last question. Where are you from? What's the tattoo on your shoulder? Niji asked with his finger on the trigger and his eyes cold. Bigfoot, the Bigfoot Ninja Gang. Red Claw looked away and mentioned the tattoo on her shoulder. Niji's eyebrows knitted together, and he thought about in his mind, this Bigfoot Ninja Gang, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Hiss, it's really possible that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are in New York, and they did make a cameo in Gotham. Lego Batman and the most feared snake-like Joker were also created. What's your name? What's your relationship with them? Do you know Schreider? Niji asked in a deep voice. Red Claw looked over quickly. She didn't understand why someone from Gotham. She looked at the police badge hanging in Niji's arms. He was a police officer. How'd he know the name Shredder? Very few people know this name. Answer me. I have no patience. Niji raised the muzzle of his gun to let Red Claw understand the current situation. He was the one who had the power of life and death over her. My name is Red Claw. Shredder, I'm our boss. Niji looked a little weird when he heard this. Which version of Shredder is it? The ninja? Or the alien? Or the armor with the soul attached to it? But speaking of this, there are so many aliens. In New York City, the center of the universe, there are aliens from aliens every day. I know your boss, Schreider. What about you? What is your name? Who do you serve? And who did what happened tonight? Niji put away his firearm. He was right. He didn't know Schreider. He met him on TV, but when Red Claw heard this, he was stunned for a moment, with a look of disbelief. He looked at Meowmoo and looked at the police badge hanging on Meowmoo. Just a little policeman? Although Niji is a senior police detective, in Red Claw's eyes, he is just a small policeman. Even a New York City police chief is a small policeman in front of her, and they treat everyone equally. You can be skeptical, but in New York City, I'm still a little confident. Is your boss still wearing that suit of armor? Niji said enigmatically, although he was not sure which version of Shredder he was. The armor was iconic, just like the red underwear worn by Superman and the pointed ears on Batman's underwear pullover. They are irreplaceable. Red Claw was silent. She didn't know whether Niji was deceiving her. The person she had beaten to death just now turned out to be one of her own? Is this possible? Although she does know that Shredder has many backups elsewhere, but you can doubt it. When you meet him in the future, give him a message, Clark Joseph Kent of the Metropolis, and welcome him as a guest. Niji said very sinisterly, Clark Joseph Kent is Superman's full name, and he's also a young reporter from the Daily Planet. If Red Claw really has a chance to bring the words to him, then Superman will solve everything. My name is Red Claw, and the brothers from the mercenary group have been hired to stay here for 3 hours. Having said this, Red Claw glared at Niji fiercely. She had seen how Niji shot and killed her mercenary brother. It was simply outrageous. But this also made Red Claw more certain that this guy was definitely not an ordinary policeman. Any policeman would kill without hesitation. Tell me, who hired you? I don't know him. We don't record the employer's information, but he wears a black skull mask on his face. It's made of wood. After Red Claw completed the supplement, Niji immediately knew who it was. Black Mask, Roman Sionis, had Nigma check him out before and disappeared after the company went bankrupt. Unexpectedly, he actually came here to be a robber? This guy is a member of the underworld. Is he now a member of the underworld? Thinking of this, Niji stretched out his fingers and calculated. After Batman appeared, Gotham began to reveal its bottomless darkness. Batman is an anomaly who shattered Gotham's corrupt and dirty underworld order, but also created a world of great strife, a chance for even the gangsters below to stand up and become the boss. Those gang members whose arms were broken by Batman and whose ribs were broken were thrown into prison. Their missing ecological niches would be immediately replenished, just like the Penguin. It has nothing to do with me anymore. I just want to live well. If I can, live a better life. Niji shook his head. After this period of time, he found that he actually liked Gotham a little bit. At least in other places, there were not so many gaps and opportunities. This sounded a bit like Gollum syndrome. However, living in this hellish place, who is not a little sick? The psychiatrist is obviously even more sick. Chapter 44, practicing boxing. Gotham City experienced another sleepless night, but it did not cause any huge amounts of trouble to the citizens of Gotham. I keep singing and dancing, but I still have to go to work tomorrow. Gotham has nothing to fear. Even if Darkseid comes, the confidence of Gotham people must be weighed. In short, Blackgate Prison became famous this time. More than 100 criminals escaped, including several serious criminals, and it suddenly became the front page of a newspaper. Even the tidbits about Playboy Bruce Wayne, things that Gotham citizens love to hear and imagine, have been squeezed onto the 5th page. On the front page, there's the Arkham Asylum breakout and urban legends about whether the Bat Vigilantes are friends or foes. And Mayor Don Mitchell Jr., patting his chest to protect Gotham sky. Niji sat on the toilet in Arkham Police Station, looked at Don Mitchell Jr.'s face, tore the newspaper open, and stood up. With a splash, the toilet started flushing. Niji walked out of the toilet very comfortably. He had no way to go to the toilet and had to bring his own paper. Some people even embezzled toilet paper. It's really outrageous. Niji decided that if someone from the City Hall comes to Arkham Police Station, he must definitely ask him to use the toilet of Arkham Police Station to experience the treatment of police officers like them who have experienced life and death. The police station was very quiet, and it was indeed quiet. 6 people from Arkham Police Station died in last night's operation. The police force was originally insufficient, but this time it was completely destroyed. Chief Wei Fei did not show up today. I heard that he went to the city for a meeting, and there were less than 10 people in the police station. "Hello, officer." A young policeman stood at attention and saluted when he saw Niji with admiration in his eyes. He swore that this was definitely a heartfelt respect. Officer Niji's heroic appearance last night had been engraved in his mind. Capturing criminals without fear in the hail of bullets and protecting the stability of one party is what he wants to do when he joins the police. Instead of following those lazy old guys, collecting protection fees, and living their lives like gang members outside. You don't need to call the police officer. If you like me, just call Brother Meow. By the way, there is no one in the toilet, and there is paper here. Niji handed half the newspaper in his hand to the young policeman, took out the cigarette case from his pocket, and walked towards the other side of the corridor. Yes. The young policeman held the newspaper and saluted again. Looking at the back of Meowmoo walking further and further away, he quickly shouted, "Naum? No, Brother Meow. My name is Milo. Milo Scully." Niji, walking in front, nodded when he heard the name, took out a lighter, lit a cigarette, turned around, and shouted, "I know you. You shot a terrorist yesterday. You are a good young man. You graduated from Gotham University, and being a police officer is a bit of an underachievement. Although the security in Gotham City is not very good, the rest of the city is top-notch. Well, the villains are also top-notch. The folk customs are simple and honest, and talents come out in large numbers. Gotham University is also a top prestigious school in the United States and has long insisted on outputting high-quality talents." Milo smiled when he heard this and shouted while maintaining a saluting posture, "I wanted to protect Gotham, so I chose to be a policeman." "Good." Niji held the cigarette between his thumb and forefinger with a somewhat special posture. He blew out a puff of smoke and waved. "Let's go." This kind of young people with hopes and expectations can be found everywhere, but they don't end well. Niji walked around the police station with a cigarette in his mouth. After burning out one cigarette, the patrol was completed. Niji threw away the cigarette, but stood at the door of the garage, looked around, opened the rolling shutter door of the garage, walked in, pulled it down again, and closed the door. The lights on the ceiling of the garage turned on. Sheriff May's special police car was originally parked here, but it was canceled last night. Moreover, Mize was injured by a stray bullet last night, so this place became empty. Niji pulled over a broken table, which was originally used to store some maintenance tools, but he threw them in the corner. After patting the oil stain on it, Niji took out the Iron Fist stone monkey statue he had harvested before from a backpack at the door. He looked up and down and found that it was not damaged. After placing it firmly on the table, Meowmoo took 2 steps back, checked the position with his hands against the box, then adjusted it to make sure it was placed correctly, and then he breathed a sigh of relief. With her hands clasped together into fists and her feet slightly apart, Niji closed her eyes to soothe her spirit and emotions. His treasure hunting system is indeed good, and the things he finds are also good, but Niji is also very aware of his shortcomings. The situation in Gotham will become more and more serious in the future. Yesterday, it was Black Mask. Who will it be the day after tomorrow? It's a mess of gods and ghosts. There's also a court of owls deep in the shadows of Gotham. Being a police officer in Gotham is not an easy job. But little did you know that the tragic situation of Chief Gordon being captured and tortured by Joker has not happened yet. But Niji has no hope that he will encounter something like that. Only by becoming stronger can he live well in Gotham. Martial arts are the foundation, and a strong body is a must. Niji's nose moved, and he smelled a fragrance. It was not the smell of perfume, nor of flowers, nor of food, but the burning incense in the incense burner. Niji opened his eyes suddenly, and the scene in front of him was no longer the garage of Arkham Police Station, but a training ground of huge amounts. The statue of the Iron Fist Stone Monkey in front has also become very huge, as high as 3 stories high. The surrounding fairy atmosphere is misty and dreamlike, as if he has traveled through time again. There are people all around who are wearing light yellow training clothes, punching one after another, and the clothes vibrated and made a snapping sound. Niji stood there and watched. The martial arts practitioners around him were clearly close at hand, but their faces could not be seen. "What are you doing?" A loud voice sounded, like rolling thunder from the sky. It directly shocked Niji awake. He quickly raised his hand and imitated the people around him, doing boxing postures. The movements were very jerky, but the loud voice didn't sound again. While punching, Niji paid attention to the surrounding situation, trying to find the beginning of the voice. There was a snap. "Ah!" Niji screamed, his hand cramped. There was something wrong with multitasking. The Iron Monkey Fist was originally a fierce punch, with explosive power that shocked him all at once. Even though he was covering his wrists and sweating on his painful forehead, the surrounding scenery did not change. But Niji discovered one thing, and he wanted to praise himself. Even though his wrist hurt like crazy, his head could still be distracted and thinking about other things. No wonder his academic performance was so poor in his previous life. It seems that the skill of distracted fantasy has reached its peak. Niji looked at the incense stick in front of the Iron Fist Stone Monkey statue, and the white smoke was rising. The incense burner is made of stone and has the word fist on the front. Niji immediately guessed that his existence in this place would only last for a stick of incense. Recalling the effect of the Iron Fist Stone Monkey statue, Miamu did not dare to delay any longer. He endured the pain in his wrist, looked at the figures around him, and continued to practice his boxing skills. Although I had learned the Iron Monkey boxing directly, as if I had received an enlightenment before, my body had not been systematically trained after all. When the move is executed, the damage of the fist is increased, but nothing else changes. Niji imitated those figures, and after punching, his body shape gradually changed with them. When he punched, his energy was stimulated, his cuffs shook, and the pain in his wrist became much lighter. This feeling, Niji just felt like he was in water, and his body could feel the resistance of ki. Before he could fully appreciate it, the surrounding scene dissipated and disappeared like a mirage. Chapter 45. Hugo Strange Niji smacked his lips with some unfinished thoughts. The pain in his wrist was not that serious anymore, but this feeling, it's like having an erotic dream. It's a pity that it was so short. He reached out and picked up the statue of the Iron Fist Stone Monkey, stuffed it into his bag, and hung it on his body until the house was settled and stabilized. If you clean up a practice room, you might be able to become a great master. Niji thought about it, laughed out loud, put his hands in his pockets, and walked out. Turn off the lights, open the door, and close the door in one go. As soon as he returned to the office, something happened. Someone wanted to see him. Arkham PD reception room. Niji opened the door and saw a bald man sitting on the sofa. He looked like a very smart man. He was wearing a decent black suit. Just looking at his back, draw 2 numbers 47 on the back of your head. which will be the famous bald Killer 47, the kind that can be cosplayed without makeup. "Hello, I am Niji. Who are you?" Niji walked over, introduced himself first, and then asked the other person's identity. The policeman who called him just now didn't know who the other person was. He only knew that he was from Arkham Asylum, probably because of the few psychopaths who escaped. "Hello, I am Hugo Strange, the temporary director of Arkham Asylum, the former Dean Blanken." Hugo Strange shook his head sadly as he spoke, not seeing the strange flash in Niji's eyes. "Grass, Strange, the second leader of the Batman fan club, the one who had ABD meal." Note: Sasing fan is the most extreme, crazy, and perverted fan group, and the #1 leader is Joker. Niji was thinking this, but his eyes were scanning Strange. Who would have thought that this guy likes to cosplay Batman? And he also likes to wear Batman suits in the research room. Moreover, they're physically strong, good at developing monsters, and have their own clone army. Those who commit crimes are all his clones, and he himself is not guilty. Niji thought evilly in his heart whether this guy and the newspaper owner from New York's neighborhood Spider-Man were both wearing the same original suit. "Officer Niji." Strange blinked and looked at Niji, who was looking at him with narrowed eyes and the weird look in his eyes. As a psychology expert, his anus suddenly tightened. This guy, could he like men? Combined with the information he had reviewed before, Strange immediately felt that his speculation was reliable. Of course, if Niji had the ability to read minds and knew what the big bald man in front of him was thinking, he would definitely take out the Glock 17 from his waist and empty the magazine for him without hesitation. Mahler Gobi, if he dares to say that the passionate seed from Chicago Community College is gay, Sapling will definitely blow his head off. They also want to find a group of girls to have a passionate, wild fight on his grave, slap him hard in the face, and surf his grave. "It's nothing. I didn't sleep well last night and was distracted." "Hello." Niji quickly laughed, stretched out his hand to shake Strange's hand, and sat on the sofa. Strange looked at the hand held by Niji and wiped it on the sofa twice without changing his expression, then wiped it on his pants. "That's right. Can we take back the patients who came out of Arkham Asylum? After all, they just escaped during the chaos and need further treatment." After hearing this, Niji raised his hand to support his chin, thinking patiently, "Damn, has Arkham Asylum ever cured any patients? It seems like there's a crazy female doctor, Harley Quinn, the famous Harley Quinn." "It doesn't matter what I said. Our director went to the headquarters for a meeting. When he comes back, you can ask him. He should be happy to hand over these criminals to you." "Director Weaver?" "Yes." Strange suddenly smiled, reached out and took off his glasses and asked curiously, "I heard that you were a great hero last night. You captured many criminals in one fell swoop. Can you tell me about last night?" It was a good thing he didn't mention it. When he mentioned it, Niji immediately realized that what happened last night had something to do with him, right? This guy is not an honest person. He dares to borrow loan sharks to study humanoid monsters, and he also steals money and pays loan sharks. The person who robbed him was the one who lent him a loan shark. He took the other person's money and repaid the other person's debt, and the other person had to thank him for his credit. "Excuse me, where were you last night?" "That's right, last night's Arkham Asylum escape. We found someone who provided explosives in Arkham Asylum and blew up the walls." Clam. Hugo Strange suddenly felt that his psychology degree seemed to be in vain, and he was completely unable to keep up with Niji's out-of-the-box thinking. "Why did you jump here all of a sudden? Am I a suspect?" Before he could figure out the cause and effect, explain and prove clearly, he was invited to the detention room by Niji. It is called temporary protection and is effective for 24 hours. Standing behind the iron railing, Strange looked a little annoyed. This slum bumpkin is ABCH and mentally retarded. The instigator was sitting cross-legged in the passenger seat of the police car, wearing sunglasses and driving towards Arkham Asylum. "Officer, we're here." Milo Scully in the driver's seat unbuckled his seatbelt and said. As soon as he finished speaking, Niji opened the door and got out of the car. "Seatbelts? Those things have zero safety in Gotham." Niji walked towards Arkham Asylum, and Milo quickly followed. Jerry was approved by Niji to take a leave of absence on the grounds that he was under excessive psychological pressure and needed counseling and help from a psychologist. Last night, Jerry killed 7 people with a shotgun, although this careless guy couldn't possibly have any psychological shadow. Pulling the trigger was easier for him than eating one more bite of beef roll in a restaurant. However, if there's an opportunity for a vacation, you must not let it go. For the brothers' dream of flying together, Niji will definitely help. Although Niji still can't tell the difference between the Mexican boss's twin daughters. One is called Lillian and the other is Muda. Walking into Arkham Asylum, Niji's first feeling was that this place was even more sinister than a prison. Although he has never been to Kiramon Prison, Niji is sure that this place is much more powerful than Kiramon Prison. However, since the construction of Arkham Asylum began, there have been constant disasters. When construction started, the architect went crazy and hacked the workers to death with an axe. If this was in China, it must be a feng shui problem. You need to find a master to find out what is going on. However, Gotham's head is strong. Just cover it. It was originally a general hospital, treating illnesses and saving lives. But founder Amadeus Arkham's mother was mentally ill and was eventually euthanized, which became his heartache. In order to save patients with mental illness, this place became a mental hospital to treat lunatics. Later, his wife and child were hacked to death. He remodeled Arkham Asylum again to treat lunatic patients with criminal tendencies or criminal behavior. The first patient admitted here was the murderer who hacked his wife and children to death, Martin Hawkins, nicknamed Mad Dog. Then this Mad Dog died due to a mistake during electric shock treatment on a dark and stormy night. Later, the founder of the lunatic asylum, who named it after his surname, also went crazy and became a patient here until his death. What an unfortunate place. Niji put his hands in his police uniform jacket and looked up at the wooden sign with the word Arkham hanging in front of the hospital. Hello, Officer Niji. My name is Aaron Cash. Chapter 46 Arkham Asylum. Aaron Cash is a man in his early 30s, wearing an Arkham Asylum guard uniform with a layer of rubber leather sewn on the cuffs that looks like anti-bite. He was a very kind person, and he welcomed the arrival of Niji and the others. He was much better than another guard named Frank Bowles. That guy, when they looked at Niji, they looked at him with disdainful eyes. Especially when they saw Niji, they almost looked like a yellow-skinned monkey. That's why they didn't finish the sentence. It was because Niji accidentally dropped the gun on the ground, coincidentally flipped the safety off, and went off. There was a bang, and the bullet passed by Frank's thigh and hit the wall behind, knocking off a piece of the wall. It left an ugly scar on the white wall. Oh, I'm so sorry. Niji bowed down in embarrassment, and another gun fell out of his police uniform. It was a revolver. Frank was like a frightened bird. The moment he saw the gun fall to the ground, he ran away and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Milo next to him wanted to laugh, but he didn't dare to laugh. He was feeling uncomfortable. Niji put away the revolver, turned to look at guard Aaron, and followed the rules seriously. We are police from the Arkham Police Department. Please take us to Dr. Strange's office. Okay. Aaron quickly led the way. In my heart, I was sweating because of Frank's bad temper. I had always told him to be kind, but this time I had hit the wall. Arkham Asylum is in short supply of guards and basic staff because of its special work, so recruitment is basically done every day. Because stowaways with unknown origins cannot be used and must have identities, the quality of the guards they find varies. However, compared with basic staff, Arkham Asylum has no shortage of doctors, let alone experts. There are some of the craziest cases and most ferocious mental prisoners in the United States. There is no shortage of doctors who want to do their own research or papers, or who want to treat these patients at close range. Along the way, Niji saw several elite people wearing suits and white coats with job badges on their chests. They were all professional starters. However, the words in their mouths made Niji and the others feel chills on their backs. Nurse, Dr. Kellerman. Patient number 67 bit the caregiver and the anesthetic injection didn't work. Number 67? I remember that he is insensitive. Go call someone. As Dr. Stacy Kelman spoke, he ran over there with a rubber mask. On the way, he saw Niji and the others, or to be precise, he saw guard Aaron. Aaron, just in time, come over and help. Dr. Kelman shouted and ran out in a hurry. It was obvious that he was already familiar with this kind of thing. Dr. Strange's office is just ahead. You go first. Aaron pointed to the office on the right side of the corridor in front of him. He held the rubber baton at his waist and chased after him. It's really hard for these people. Milo stretched his neck and looked at the nurses, doctors, and guards who had disappeared behind him. Niji shook his head and walked towards Strange's office. When he entered, he took out a pair of white gloves from his pocket and put them on, then opened the door. The decoration of the office is quite good because the office area is upstairs with metal floor-to-ceiling windows and a Victorian style. There's also a specimen of a lion's head hanging on the wall, and there are 2 black solid-wood bookshelves filled with various large books. Not that kind of person, but someone who has read them all and marked them carefully. You can see colorful bookmarks and paper clips on the pages of the book. Niji opened a book and read it. It should be a book about cells. It was full of professional terms and could not be understood. He put it back on the bookshelf and turned to look at the desk in the room, which still had a black marble top. Above is the computer and a bowl of potato chips. Well, it's tomato-flavored and very crispy. Under Milo's somewhat embarrassed gaze, Niji finished tasting the bowl of potato chips and finally rubbed his fingers and commented, "I still like barbecue-flavored potato chips." Niji isn't worried about poisoning or anything like that. What's put on the surface is absolutely safe, but it's hard to say anything else. Taking off his gloves, Niji reached out and opened the drawer. There were also some trivial office supplies inside. Milo checked the cases on this side. The two searched around and found no evidence. There was no evidence in the first place, but Niji didn't feel at ease. After all, if he was talking about the perverted bald good guy. Niji doesn't agree with it 100%, and it's still on his own territory. Is it okay not to scrutinize it carefully? Niji turned around and looked at the wall behind the desk. There was nothing there, no portraits or oil paintings that are common in movies, and there was a safe hidden behind it. It was obviously nothing. Just when he was about to give up, Milo found something, a business card in the trash can. It's black, with a pattern of a ship's rudder on it. And on the back is the name of the business card, the Scoundrel Bar, and the address is Dixon Pier. "I know this place," Milo said, waving the business card in his hand. "This is a place where sailors and gangsters gather. It is said that even if you're not bad enough, you cannot get in. You know it quite well. Have you been there?" Niji took the business card and read it again, then turned to look at the furnishings in the office. Is it normal for a psychology or psychiatry expert to have a business card from a third-rate bar in his office trash can? It's normal. The supermarket next door is full of aliens. It's normal for psychologists to go there to study psychological behavior. Milo shook his head. "No, I just heard about it. When I was at the police training base, I saw the sailors fighting over there." Niji turned around and glanced around the office again, looking at the books on the bookshelf. He then approached the bookshelf and looked at the thin layer of dust on it. There was a book that was frequently moved. Reaching out to touch the spine of the book, Miyaoji took out a black leather book. As soon as he opened it, he saw the newspaper clippings inside. That blurry newspaper headline photo of Batman. It seems that someone has noticed this big star in Gotham City. I don't know how far he is from being a pervert fan. Let's go to the villain bar. Miyaoji closed the book and put it back to its original place. He clapped his hands and walked out. "By the way, let's go to the police training center on the way. Do you know where it is?" "I know." Milo quickly followed and asked curiously, "Police training center? What are we going to do there?" "Look at the guardian of Gotham's police force, Old Man Gordon." Niji teased with a slight smile. "By the way, let's have a meal with him. I'm hungry." Chapter 47. Gordon, can you eat slower? "I'm a little scared." In the old KFC store, Gordon looked at the seedlings that came from afar to see his seedlings, and his expression of joy suddenly disappeared. If this was the only way to eat it, he would have to consider getting it on credit here. He picked up a fried chicken leg, dipped it in ketchup, stuffed it into his mouth, and spit out half of the bone. The dogs shook their heads. "No, Chief Gordon, it's just 20 boxes of chicken legs. There's no need for this. Although I'm penniless, you do." Miyaoji picked up another chicken leg and stuffed it into his mouth to chew. I wonder if it was a sequelae of martial arts training. Miyaoji felt like eating was like a bottomless pit digesting extremely quickly. It seems that if you eat it in your stomach, it will be digested into energy and stored. The hunger is not very severe, but you can't keep your mouth shut. You don't have to call sheriff outside. Just call me Gordon. Gordon picked up the Coke cup on the side and took a sip. Next to him, Milo was embarrassed to show off the burger in his mouth. Because it was Sheriff Gordon's treat, this ordinary beef burger became extra delicious. You work for the Arkham Police Department, so you're not penniless. You're not married yet, right? Where's your salary? Gordon put down the Coke and asked curiously, although young people now have no plans to spend money. But how many days have they been paid? Even he still had a few $100 bills in his pocket. It's a long story. I was probably ill, so I sent alimony to my wife. No, it was my ex-wife. The key point is that I still don't know whether that guy is dead or alive. If he rushes to the street, I will lose my blood. Niji shook his head and said, picking up another fried chicken leg and stuffing it into his mouth to chew, and poured the untouched French fries on Milo's plate into his mouth. But to be honest, Niji still sympathized with Deadshot. The pretty boy his ex-wife raised was as strong as a football player. It's a good thing we got divorced, otherwise this cuckold. But it's quite miserable. The money I earned through hard work has to be given to my ex-wife, who doesn't have a job, to raise a pretty boy. This is really miserable. The speaker was unintentional, but the listener was intentional. When Gordon heard Meow Moo's complaint, he was touched in his heart, not for anything else. It's because of ex-wife. I'm divorced too. What? Cough, cough, cough. A cough, cough. Niji was so shocked that the chicken bone got stuck in his throat. Brother Meow. Milo stood up quickly and patted Meow Moo on the back. Meow Moo also vomited out quickly, and half of the chicken bones fell to the ground with saliva. What did you say? Are you divorced? Ignoring the discomfort in her mouth, Niji grabbed a napkin and wiped her mouth, then asked hurriedly. Gordon nodded a little ashamedly, as if he was relieved to say it out. Some things were uncomfortable in his heart. The Coke cup in his hand was like strong whiskey, giving him a hazy feeling of being drunk, and it started to rain lightly outside the window. One day, he suddenly discovered that he fell in love with Sarah Essen, a colleague from the Gotham Police Department, and it was just the beginning of his love. The two have not made any substantial progress, but they are in love with each other and have true love in both directions. However, both of them are also people with ideals and bottom lines. Gordon had his own family, and Sarah Essen did not want to destroy his family. So the two of them avoided it in a tacit understanding. It wasn't until Gordon confessed to his wife that this honest and old-fashioned man couldn't stand the pain of betraying his wife, even if it was just an extramarital affair. So he told the truth. So, you're now a single man who has been kicked out of the house. Niji couldn't help laughing. He knew a little bit about Gordon's marriage, especially the second Mrs. Gordon, who died bravely and decisively. Even Gotham's crime prince, Joker, was shocked by her death. That's right, they were dead. Joker hijacked a batch of babies in the hospital and gave them to Officer Sarah Essen, who went to arrest them. Using bombs, a special multiple-choice question was asked. 1. Capture him and all the babies will die. 2. Sarah Essen commits suicide and everyone survives. Rather than killing his enemies, Joker prefers to drive his opponents crazy, just like he has been able to kill Batman countless times. But he didn't. Killing is his method, and letting those with morals and bottom lines trample on their own bottom lines and ideals, and eventually fall into endless madness, is what he wants to do. What could be better than letting the people who protect this city destroy and kill the people they want to protect with their own hands? However, Sarah Essen taught Joker a lesson. Some people can really die for their ideals and protection. He raised the pistol, pointed it at his forehead, and without hesitation pulled the trigger, and there was a loud bang. Even the famously crazy Joker was shocked. That seemed to be the first time Joker fulfilled his promise and released all those babies. But it seemed to be the last time. Gordon smiled bitterly, looking very embarrassed. It felt really strange that he could still find love when his daughter was in college. Okay, the Upper West Side is your territory. We're going here together. Niji picked up a napkin and wiped the grease stains at the corners of his mouth, took out the business card from his pocket, and pushed it over. Gordon put on his glasses, picked up a business card, and took a look at it. This place is quite messy. You two go over there. No, I'm inviting you to come together. Niji wiped his hands, stood up, and put on his coat. "Would you like to come together? It's already off work." Saying that, Niji pointed to the chicken leg clock on the wall. It was obvious that it was already time to get off work. "Well, okay, I want to have a drink too." Gordon thought for a while and then agreed. When he went back, he was alone at home and seemed particularly lonely. "Let's go to Dixon Pier while the rain isn't getting too heavy, and Milo will drive." Niji put his coat on his head and threw the keys to Milo. "Let this young man, who looks a bit handsome on the outside but quite naive on the inside, go run errands." He and Gordon walked outside. The thick clouds in Gotham's sky would cause a burst of rain from time to time. After being here for a long time, you would get used to it. Gordon skillfully pulled out the hat from his coat and put it on his head. The police uniform jacket he was wearing was waterproof. A police car drove by, and just as it stopped, the rain stopped. Miamu looked up at the sky after the rain, revealing a crescent moon. He stretched out his hand in disbelief. It really stopped raining. "This weather is pretty good." Niji originally wanted to curse, but when he saw the moon in the sky, he changed the second half of the curse. "Let's go. That place is quite lively at night, but it's best not to go there wearing police uniforms. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble." Gordon watched the rain stop and simply took off his police uniform jacket, wearing a white shirt and tie underneath. However, it had been a while since I'd changed my clothes, and the white collars had turned black, but none of these three men cared about this. "It's dark and dark when you're busy. Who cares about this?" Niji was only wearing a black short-sleeved t-shirt with a pink cat logo on the chest. It seemed that this t-shirt was a gift from Jerry, so Niji grabbed it and put it on. "There's no need to leave the police car. Come with me." Under the dim street lights, Gordon lit a cigarette, raised his head and blew out a stream of smoke, rubbed his hair, and walked towards a nearby block with Meow Moo and the others. The three of them did not walk like police officers taking off their uniforms, but like Gotham underworld thugs and gang bosses. Especially Gordon. The majesty of the sergeant under his black-rimmed glasses is even more powerful than the pistol stuck in Niji's waist. With just a glance and a cold snort, the two gangsters on the street who wanted to fly the leaves were so frightened that their cigarettes fell to the ground. Chapter 48 Villain Bar. The streets of Gotham are very lively at night, and there are many people. The Upper West Side is pretty good. It is close to the seaside. Docks and industrial and commercial areas are very good. It is much better than Arkham District in the north and the Upper East Side. However, the path Gordon took them was a bit circuitous, passing through bustling neighborhoods and finally reaching some dimly lit neighborhoods. Standing on both sides of the street were women with heavy makeup and revealing clothes, as well as some pimps squatting against the wall with hand-rolled cigarettes in their mouths. Seeing those people, Niji almost laughed. Gordon had indeed taken them to take a shortcut. This was the Latino community. Those near the seaside pier are all immigrants, and the largest is the little Asian community centered on Chinatown. Seeing them, the masters on the street were also a little ready to move. It was just getting dark, and it had rained just now. The guests who were looking for fun did not come in a hurry, but now someone came to the door. Of course, you have to take the initiative. A teacher's wife with curly hair twisted her waist, which was not slender, and stepped on her elephant legs tightened with stockings. With an eager smile on her face, she walked over on a pair of high heels. He leaned towards Niji with a clear purpose. Because everyone else has been chosen. Only Sheriff Gordon has no one chosen, and his gloomy and serious face is too scary. Just like the note that comes to arrest someone, when you look at it, you feel that the fine banknotes are still shaking. Milo, a fledgling young man, looks like a young man at first glance, and he is dressed very neatly with a dark red jacket, like a student, which means he is rich. But Niji was even more conspicuous because he was the only one wearing a short-sleeved t-shirt, exposing his muscular arms. Normally, you can't see it when wearing a police uniform and jacket, but when it is exposed, it means that you are dressed stylishly and undressed to show off your body. It makes people feel strong at a glance. The muscles are not exaggeratedly strong, but strong and strong, with muscles in the bones. Before Master Tai came over, Niji pulled out the two pockets on his pants, hanging out like pig ears. It was empty, let alone money, not even a thread. The teacher, who was still smiling at first, just passed by Niji and asked joking, "Do you still want to have a sec for nothing if you have no money?" He thought he was Bruce Wayne. The teacher angrily spat on the street, cursed a poor man secretly, and leaned on the street to continue waiting for the guests. Niji didn't feel anything about this. No matter how hungry he was, he couldn't be too aggressive towards the walrus master. That's not harsh anymore. That's horror. But looking at this street, Niji remembered something interesting. Mr. Bruce Wayne also walked the street. She dressed up in disguise and was accosted by teachers and ladies on the street. But the next day, someone looked at the photo in the newspaper. Yeah, Mr. Bruce Wayne has been here too. So much so that even now, some masterwives are fantasizing about having a fierce collision in bed with the richest man in Gotham City. Although Bruce came to inspect the environment and prepare to transform into Batman. But who knows? Niji couldn't help laughing and humming twice, and Milo, who was on the right, ran out in a somewhat embarrassed state. This place. Milo wiped the lipstick on his face. He was grabbed by the lady and took 2 bills to break free. The moment he took out the money, in the mind of that lady, he was already a Prince Charming level figure. "Brother Gordon, why don't you have anyone here?" Niji teased narrowly, with a smile on his face. Gordon coughed in embarrassment. Men are teenagers who refuse to admit defeat until they die, unless they change the subject. "We're just ahead. Don't make any noise here." As Gordon spoke, he pointed forward. After they passed a house, they saw the legendary Villain Bar. It was an abandoned cargo ship stranded on the rocks at the seaside. It was transformed into a bar. The shining lights were on, and the light like a white lamppost flashed in the air. The deafening cheers, music, and excited screams could be heard from a distance. It was quite lively, and the only way in and out was a wooden plank road in front, with steep rocks on both sides, and the sea with rolling waves behind it. It's low tide now, and the black rocks are exposed. Under the moonlight, the remaining sea water flashes with silver waves. This place is easy to defend, but difficult to attack. Miamu raised his hands to cover his eyes and glanced around as a habit. If they were asked to arrest someone in this place, at least 2 helicopters are needed, as well as maritime support. In Gotham, there are always lawless places that we can't control, Gordon said dully. After saying that, he walked forward. Niji waited for a while before following him, and Milo followed closely beside him. At the entrance of Villain Bar, you can see the shining neon sign, which looks like a pirate skull. There was a burly man standing at the door, wearing a black sports vest and jeans. He looked like a pillar wherever he stood, and his broad pecs could crush an apple. His eyes were staring outward, as if he wanted to eat someone. A strange customer was about to enter the bar. He was a man wearing an electrician's uniform and holding a fishtail in his mouth. "Wait, tell me how bad you are." The strong man guarding the door stretched out his arm to stop him and asked with his eyes wide open, "How bad am I? I came out of Arkham Asylum. Mentally ill human. My attending doctor is." "Please." The strong man guarding the door immediately gave way, and the 2 doors behind him opened. Inside was a world of shining lights and a world of paper and gold. The strong man guarding the door respectfully sent the man in, and at the same time reached out and grabbed a young man who wanted to get through. Holding his hair, he lifted him up directly. The boy who was pulled by his hair screamed in pain. She grabbed his wrist with both hands and kicked him. "Let me go. I'm the worst. I want to go in too. Get out." The strong man guarding the gate threw him aside and warned, "Bah, if you dare to come here again, I will throw you into the water to feed the fish." Gordon walked over from the boardwalk, glanced at the kid, and stretched out his hand to pull him up. However, he was avoided by the stubborn young man. "Hey, do you see how bad I am?" Niji's careless voice sounded, and he walked over with shaking steps, picked up the young man, put it back, and said coldly, "This is not a place for children to play. Stay away." Miyaji raised her foot and kicked him on the butt, then walked forward. Looking at the strong man guarding the gate, Miyaji showed a provocative smile on his face. Faced with people like this who are just looking for trouble, the strong man guarding the gate has a lot of experience. So he clenches his fists and is about to hit them. As a result, the next second, Niji kicked out, raised his vaginal foot, and reluctantly withdrew his strength, but did not let the strong man guarding the door beat him. But the severe pain was really unbearable for men. With a strange cry, the strong man guarding the gate covered his crotch and knelt on the ground. Niji walked over and smiled evilly. "Can I go in?" The strong man guarding the gate blushed and finally choked out a word. "Able." Niji nodded, smiled at Gordon and the others. "Okay, you two are free. By the way, say thank you." Niji turned around and said. The face of the strong man guarding the gate, which was already flushed, turned purple this time, but he looked at Niji's clenched fists. "Thanks." Chapter 49. Inside the bar. When you walk into the bar, you are greeted by the dazzling lights, which are dazzling, and the noise in your ears. Niji and the others stood at the door and tilted their heads to adjust, then looked around. In the middle was a huge amount of octagonal cage ring, inside which two muscular men, one black and one white, were fighting. The punches hit the flesh, and blood splattered everywhere. The sweat on his body was somewhat reflective under the light. Like two ferocious lions, their fangs bit together, tearing open the flesh to reveal bright red flesh, and then slammed into the octagonal cage, splashing sweat and blood drops. Many people around were shouting loudly because of this primitive violence, and they were betting odds on the big screen on one side. Bloody violent. It seems cruel at first glance, but with the deafening music all around, there are also cheers. The kind of wildness with soaring hormones quickly secretes dopamine in people's heads, and the audience is as excited as if they were on drugs. "Would you like something to drink?" Niji gestured with his thumb at the bar counter on the right. "Are you rich?" Gordon raised his eyebrows. "He pays for your treat." Niji pointed at Milo, who was shocked by the black boxing octagon. Gordon also turned to look at him and nodded. "I think it's okay." So the two of them walked to the bar and looked at the wooden wine board hanging on the bar, which showed the price of the drinks. "2 beers with ice. What do you want?" Niji turned around and asked. Gordon pushed up his glasses, and the people sitting on both sides of the bar looked at the two of them with unkind expressions. "Whiskey bar." "Okay, 2 beers and 1 whiskey." Niji sat on a high stool and said to the waitress at the bar who was wearing eyeshadow and had a heart sticker on her face, "Here, the other clothes are cute." The waitress smiled and brought 2 large glasses of beer, pushed them over, and collected a bill that Gordon took out. Niji looked down and saw the pink cat on the t-shirt. He raised his hand and put it on the table and said with a smile, "I also have a pink girl's heart." As he spoke, he tugged on the t-shirt with his hand, shaking it twice like a heartbeat, making the waitress laugh. When Gordon saw the flirting Niji, he couldn't help but shook his head and reached for the whiskey glass. Young people just love to play. Gordon reached out to pick up the wine glass and was pressed down on the table by a big hand reaching out from the side. There was a tattoo of a grinning dog head on the back of the hand. Gordon glanced to the side, where he saw a strong man with a gold tooth in his mouth, grinning maliciously, like a Shar-Pei, standing up. "I seem to smell." The strong man closed his eyes, twitched his nose, and smelled hard a few times. "The smell of slivers." Hatsue. A mouthful of spit flew over Gordon's head and landed on the strong man's face, causing him to suddenly open his eyes, which were red with anger. "Who is it? What's wrong?" Niji leaned on the bar with an unhappy look on his face, looking even more arrogant than a gangster. "You." The strong man slapped Gordon away, who was blocking the way. He gritted his teeth and wanted to find trouble with Niji. He must stuff this BD's head into the toilet of the bar. Gordon, who was pushed by him, didn't give him a good look. He punched him in the face, kicked him in the leg, grabbed his arm, and made a back arm grapple. The unsuspecting strong man was hit by this punch. Before he could fight back, he felt a pain in his leg, became unstable, and fell to the ground. When his arm hurt, he knew he was in trouble. The experience of being imprisoned many times tells me that this is a veteran. When you arrest someone, you'll be handcuffed immediately. And this is indeed the case. Gordon reached for his waist, habitually reaching for the handcuffs, but found nothing. When he came out, he didn't have handcuffs on him. He was still throwing them in the car, but he reached out and touched the butt of the pistol. This scene made the hands of those around me tremble. They were about to shoot and kill people. It was too exciting, right? The strong man who was pinned to the ground didn't feel the handcuffs being put on, so he immediately reacted and struggled to crawl off the ground. Niji, who was standing next to him, picked up his beer glass, tugged on his waistband, raised his head, and drank it all. Then he burped, grinned at the waitress who was looking curiously outside the bar. Niji grabbed the handle of the beer glass and hit the strong man on the head like a hammer, making a clang sound. The glass beer mug was of good quality and not broken, but the strong man fell asleep and stopped struggling, embracing the angel-like tenderness. Niji looked at the beer glass, put it on the table, and asked the waitress, "Is it okay to fight here?" "No problem. But if you kill someone, you'll be thrown to the back to feed the fish. There are sharks in the back." The waitress smiled and put away the empty glass, pinched her neck, and made a hanging motion. "Haha, is it a great white shark?" Niji laughed teasingly. Speaking of which, Penguin's future site, the Iceberg nightclub, will have a great white shark under it to punish those disobedient boys. Thinking of this, Meowji looked around and asked casually, "Whose territory is this?" The waitress looked at him and then at Gordon sitting next to him, as if hesitating whether to say anything. "Look at this." The waitress picked up a bottle of wine and pointed to the brand logo on it, hinting at Niji. It was a bottle of Italian red wine with a round logo on it. The waitress raised her hand to block it, which looked like a human figure. "Roman." Niji immediately understood. Roman Falcone. If you think about it carefully, only the godfather of the Gotham underworld could have the standards to create such a scene. Niji turned around and looked at the octagonal cage, where the winner had already been decided. There's a person who looked like a bloody gourd lying inside. He was dragged down by his legs. He didn't know if he was going to the hospital for treatment or if he was thrown into the sea behind to feed the sharks. The latter is more likely. Looking at the people here, they're almost all villains, hooligans, scoundrels, gangsters, and some young people seeking excitement. It's a bit like the tavern in the game, where the NPC thugs needed can be refreshed at any time. Maybe it's really a recruitment place for the underworld. Thinking of this, Niji stretched his neck and looked around, wanting to see if he could try his luck and meet a few acquaintances. "Brother Meow, what should I do with this kid?" Milo had a dark face and walked over with a young boy in his arms. He gritted his teeth and touched his crotch. If you don't learn a little bit about the good ones, you will know the bad ones as soon as you see them. That kick just now almost made Milo see his long-dead wife, Grandma. Niji looked at the young man with a speechless face and a blue eye. He looked to be only 13 or 14 years old, maybe a little younger. He smiled playfully and gave him an awkward smile. At first glance, they were people from the slums, and Niji was very familiar with them. There were many homeless people, and there were also many street children. As for the Gotham Welfare Institute, it's not a place for people. Every person who goes in and comes out is a villain. It's an absolute refresh. As for the resentful look in Milo's eyes, Niji felt a little guilty when he saw it. He had to find a place for his little brother. "Kid, you made me anxious. Tell me how you want to die." With a straight face, Meow pulled out the revolver from his waist and slapped it on the bar table with a clang sound. The guests at the corner of the bar trembled in fright because the dark muzzle of the gun was pointed directly at them. The guests twitched at the corners of their mouths, cursed a few words, and moved away with their wine glasses. They were bad guys, but they were definitely not fools. If something went wrong, it would be extremely frustrating. I don't want to die," the young man said in frustration. "No, everyone is destined to die, and they have to choose. Tell me, kid, do you have any last words?" The young man opened his mouth and thought seriously for a moment. It seemed that he really didn't have any last words to say. "You shoot," the young man said resignedly. "This script is wrong. You have to beg me? Beg me to let you go, and then beg me to spare your life." Now it was the boy's turn to be speechless. This elder brother in front of him? The boy didn't know what to call him. Why did he feel so bad? Stop scaring him. "What's your name, and where do you live? Where are your parents? Why are you here?" Gordon turned around and asked. This opening is in the style of an old policeman, and it is more complete than checking personal information. My name is Jason. I live in Crime Alley." "Wait, what's your name?" Niji interrupted him and asked. Jason Todd. Chapter 50. Jason Todd. Niji's eyes widened, and he looked at Jason in front of him. This seems to be the second son of the Batman family. The second-generation Robin, Jason, took off the tires of the Batmobile and sold them for money when they first met. And among Batman's assistants, he seems to be the worst. He went to the Middle East to find his biological mother, but fell into Joker's trap and was beaten by Joker with a crowbar all night. When Batman arrived, the Joker time bomb detonated the house, igniting a raging fire, and died there. Later, he was resurrected by the demon leader Lei Xiaogu, returned to Gotham, put on the Red Hood, and used killing to eliminate evil. Moreover, in order to take revenge, he captured Joker and beat Joker back with a crowbar. I just took a breath and waited for Batman to come over and let Batman choose whether to choose him or Joker. Choose him and kill Joker. Don't kill is Batman's ultimate unshakable bottom line, which also makes the two people who love father and son part ways. The most interesting thing here is that when Jason asked Batman to kill his Joker, he wholeheartedly agreed. All it took was putting a gun into Batman's hand. For the number one leader of the Batman fan club, what could be better than having the bottom line that Batman has always adhered to be destroyed? Yes, that means the person you kill is yourself. The bottom line of not killing has been trampled, and he is the first person Batman kills. This kind of excitement excites Joker more than destroying the world. However, in many parallel universes, Batman in World 51 chose revenge because of Jason's death. He killed all the criminals in the world and created a perfect world without villains. He himself became the last criminal in the world, imprisoned alone in the Batcave. TSK, the memory ends here. Meowmoo rubbed his chin and looked at this wild second young man very curiously. Should I try to abduct him for a while? Although he is just a cub, Jason is definitely the most powerful being in the Bat family. He is also a firearms master. When he reaches adulthood, his shooting skills can be on the same level as Deadshot. Well, kid, do you want to hang out with me? If I eat a bite, you will have a share. The faces of Milo and Gordon next to them didn't know what kind of expressions they should show. Their expressions changed a bit quickly, especially Milo, after hanging out with Niji for a day. The hero's filter was completely destroyed, and they all became buddies. Gordon was just surprised, but thinking of Niji's background, he nodded with emotion. In his mind, Niji must have thought of his own life experience after hearing about the child's origin. After all, Niji was also an orphan who crawled out of the slums. Thinking about it this way, Niji is also a good young man. Although he looks careless, his righteous heart will not be wrong. If he is the kind of BD who eats nothing, it is impossible to run in front of someone when something happens, let alone to run with all their strength in a hail of bullets. Besides, this careless look is also a bad habit developed in childhood, so it is not a big problem. Jason didn't know what the two of them were thinking. He just looked at Niji blankly. What did that sentence mean? If he has one bite to eat, it's just a share? Eat dough. He was young, and his voice was not small. The reverberating and vibrating music was stopped for a moment by him. Niji blinked in disbelief. Is this okay? In fact, Niji didn't know that Jason regarded him as his big brother, although it wasn't much. If compared with the situation of police and gangsters in Gotham, Niji is a red-flowered double stick with the same reputation, and he is still famous. At least in Gotham, anyone who is well-informed knows that there is an extremely fierce police officer in Arkham District. He took down a team of international mercenaries, which was unprecedented in the history of Gotham police. Even Rob, the boss of the police station, had to hold his nose and say, Detective Niji's contribution is not small. 2 more drinks. Niji reached out to the bar and asked for a drink. Then he remembered that Jason was still a child and changed his mind. 2 glasses of milk, no sugar added. Thank you. Okay. The waitress didn't know whether to laugh or be embarrassed. Coming to the bar to drink milk? This kind of weird thing is not uncommon. Last time, someone asked for coffee. Woolen cloth. 2 glasses of milk were pushed over after a while, and Meowmoo picked up 1 glass. Here, cheers. Get to know each other. My name is Meowji. Meowji, Boss Meowji. Jerry was so polite that he climbed up the pole and started calling him. Good guy. I thought you would call me Uncle. Even though I'm much older than you, I'm his equal. Niji pointed to Gordon next to him. Gordon smiled kindly at Jason, and Jason looked at him and nodded with some restraint. He was a little afraid of Gordon, not because of him as a person, but because of his stern face, which was very intimidating. And there's an aura about him, how should I put it, like a note. Take it, sit here. Niji handed the milk cup to Jason and patted the empty high stool next to him, asking him to sit down. The two of them were leaning against the bar and drinking milk. Compared with other drinkers, these 2 glasses of white wine were extremely unusual. By the way, what do you want to do here? Gordon looked at the cheerleaders who started dancing inside the octagonal cage, and suddenly remembered that they were not here to play. That's right. I forgot about that big bald head. As soon as Niji slapped the table, he also remembered. At the same time, in the holding cell of Arkham Police Station, Hugo Strange squatted by the wall, holding his bald head in his hands, his face distorted, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Njai? Just wait. La la la. I forgot about the important matter." Niji patted his head in annoyance, and the blood ran into his stomach after eating, forgetting the important matter. The matter of Hugo Strange has not been found out yet. Thinking of this, Niji quickly turned around, looked at the waitress standing inside with her arms folded, and showed a smile. "Beauty, have you ever seen a big bald head?" The waitress looked at the table next to her and said, "I don't recommend you say those 2 words. Clam." Niji and the others followed her gaze. At the small table by the wall, a group of rough skinheads gathered there. Each person poured a bottle of vodka into his mouth. One of them had a black inverted cross tattooed on his bald head. I'm not talking about the kind of bald guy, but the kind that looks very cultured, well-mannered, and looks like a scholar or professor. Niji said based on his impression of Strange. The waitress put her arms on the bar, supported her face, and asked with a smile, "Why should I tell you?" Niji turned to look at her, squinting his eyes and taking a look at the sizable soft flesh in her white shirt. He straightened his chest to make the already strong muscles appear more linear, and Niji raised his eyebrows. "What do you want? I'll give it to you. $100. The waitress smiled and held out her hand. Niji looked at her hand and blinked, and the confident smile on his face suddenly turned into a grieved one. "Can I pay with my body? I am quite confident in myself." Chapter 51 Huntress 10 minutes later, Niji came down from the ring with his hands in his pockets. He had indeed paid off, but it's not the kind of flesh and blood compensation that Niji thought. He was ready to test the cadres and prepare to make a billion-dollar deal. As a result, talking about money hurts feelings. I played 2 arenas, and each individual arena was 50 yuan. In the first game, I beat up a thief. No, although he was a thief, he was not the kind he imagined, the one who quietly reaches out to steal his wallet. The people of Gotham will never wrong themselves, let alone commit such an aggrieved crime. Their steal was to put a knife on the fat sheep, as ways to shut him up, and then reach out and get it themselves. He could obviously rob it, but he still did it himself. What kind of professional ethics is this? However, this kind of professional behavior has been upgraded to a prop match in the black boxing octagonal cage, holding a butterfly knife and shaking in the hand. It looks fierce and fierce. However, after Niji came onto the stage carrying a street-fighting brick, a brick flew over and knocked him unconscious. Then he grabbed his arm and threw him out through the 2-meter-high iron mesh fence. When he fell to the ground, there was a muffled sound and a scream. The second scene was a skinhead. Once he took off his black leather jacket, he looked like a shaved polar bear. He was very strong, and in a fist-to-flesh fighting match, Niji and he were not the same weight class, so the fight ended with 1 punch. Niji used the iron monkey fist technique to hit the uppercut directly on the chin of the guy, bursting out with force. He directly knocked Mousy's strong body and his feet off the ground. The exaggerated sense of power and image almost made the eyes of the audience below almost pop out. The guy fell heavily onto the ring, twitched twice, and then passed out. This time he was either suffering from a concussion or severe fainting. Coming down from the ring, the referee lady wearing a bikini came down from the stage on one side, full of admiration. He inserted a green bill with Franklin's old face on it into the slit of his chest, slightly bent over and straightened his chest, and asked Niji to reach for it. Can you be polite when encountering something like this? If Gordon and the others weren't watching, and Jason, whose eyes were shining with stars, Niji could have rubbed his hands to warm them up before taking the money. Here, it's okay now. Niji put the banknotes on the bar, picked up the remaining half glass of beer for Milo, and poured it into his mouth. The waitress picked up the banknotes with her fingernails in disgust, glanced at the lady sitting on the table acting as the referee's mascot, and cursed inwardly. Beachy, who seduces men. After shaking off the smell of perfume, the waitress picked up a prepared cocktail and pushed it to Niji. I invited you. What do you want to know? The waitress leaned on the bar, flipped her hair, and showed a charming smile. I want to know all the information about that bald man. Well, that bald man, he came here to drink a cup of coffee, found a few people and left, that's all. Looking for someone? Who is he looking for? Niji immediately grasped the key point, thinking to himself, he knew this guy was dishonest, and he actually came here to recruit troops? I don't know. People here come and go without a trace. They're all bad people. The waitress laughed when she said this. Okay, last question. What's your name? Niji took the small paper umbrella on the cocktail and threw it to Jason next to him to play with, then picked up the light green wine glass and asked, You asked me. I thought you wouldn't ask until you leave. The waitress gave him a resentful look, but she still smiled and told him, My name is Helena. What a name. Niji praised without sincerity. What's better? Helena asked, raising her eyebrows. I don't know, but it sounds very likable. Niji smiled, looking like a prodigal in love. Titseha, mun. Helena shook her head. But why do you work here? As you said, here are bad people. Niji asked curiously. I just came back from Sicily and I had nowhere to go, so I started working here. Although it's a little messy here, I can still make money. As she said that, Helena reached into her pocket and took out the $100 bill, shaking it with a proud smile on her face. Bye. See you next time. Nothing happened anymore. Niji waved to Gordon and the others to go back. Helena was a little surprised by this sudden departure, and he left without stopping for even a moment. Fake, don't I have any charm? Just waved your hand and left. Helena tugged on the clothes in front of her unconvincedly, glanced down, and then looked sideways at the referee lady sitting on one side of the stage, dancing the flag with high heels. After taking one look at that protruding figure, Helena suddenly felt a little unconfident. Miss Bertinelli, Mr. Herrig has asked you to come over. A middle-aged man with oily hair came over. I'll be right over. Helena heard this, took off her black apron, and walked towards the second floor. The door to the manager's office was pushed open, and Helena walked in. Uncle, you asked me to come. Oh, Helena, my dear niece, did you say anything to that handsome young man? The chair behind the desk turned around, and a somewhat fat middle-aged man sat on it, holding a pipe in his hand. He is the manager of this villain bar, Ruth Herrig. Who? Helena asked softly. That's the man with the cat on his chest. Did you say anything to him? Herrig asked after taking a puff of his pipe. No, he just asked a bald man. He had been here before and drank a cup of coffee, that's all. Helena said truthfully. Herrig looked into her eyes and made sure that she was not lying before he nodded. It's okay. You can go back. When Helena was about to close the door and leave, she curiously asked inside, Who is he? Tiaozi, very powerful Tiaozi. Rob was smoking his pipe and lowered his head. The light above his head hid his face in black shadows, making it impossible to see the changes in his expressions. Helena closed the door, took out the $100 bill from her pocket, and flicked it with her fingers while looking at Franklin's face. Who are you anyway? Helena pushed open the window on one side, looked around to make sure no one was paying attention to her, and then jumped out of the window, flexibly, like a nimble night owl, walking briskly on the palm-wide edge of the freighter. When a strong man guarding the gate below didn't notice, she jumped onto the boardwalk and chased forward. If Niji knew her full name, Helena Bertinelli, she would definitely think of someone. Huntress, an illegitimate daughter of a Gotham mafia family, grew up in Sicily, Italy. She possesses exquisite crossbow skills and is proficient in fighting and stick skills. Just like hunting, searching for prey in Gotham City is also a member of the Gotham heroine group, Birds of Prey, in the future. Chapter 52, The Pain of the Bald Man. After leaving the villain bar, Niji and the others actually had nothing to do, because it was already late at night, although for Gotham, the night would only be more exciting. But it's cold. A small cold wind blew by, and Meowmoo gritted his back teeth and shivered. He didn't feel it when he came in, but when he came out, it was really cold. It was winter after all. However, there is circulating heating in the bar, and there are a lot of people, so I can't feel it, but now, I can't say it's cold. If you guys go back, I'll leave first. Gordon turned around and said that he now works at the Gotham Police Training Base, which is nearby on the Upper West Side, so it's relatively close. You go back, we also want to go home. Meowmoo waved his hand as a farewell. Gordon nodded and walked towards the other side. There happened to be a crossroads in front of him. Niji turned to look at Milo, who was yawning behind him, and asked, "Are you going back to Arkham or going home?" "Me?" Milo quickly turned around and looked around to make sure that Niji was asking him, then scratched his hair and said, "I'll just go home. It's in the community in front." "Okay, give me the key and I'll go back to Arkham." Meowji stretched out his hand to get it, and Milo quickly searched for it on his body, handed the keys to the police car to Meowji, waved his hand, and ran forward and disappeared after a while. Niji held the car key and shook it before he remembered that there was a little follower, Jason, behind him. Niji turned around and asked, "Where's your home? I'll take you back." Jason, who followed cautiously behind, imitated Milo's actions just now and scratched his head in embarrassment. "I don't have a home, but I live in Crime Alley." Niji nodded, not surprised by this. If Gotham had another name, it would be very vivid to call it the City of Orphans. Wait, Niji remembered something. Damn it, Crime Alley is on the east bank of the Gotham Canal, halfway across the city. "Why are you here?" Niji asked in surprise. "Take the rail train." Jason replied simply. Niji also remembered that Gotham's rail transit was much more convenient than the road and less expensive, making it the first choice for many people to travel. Thomas Wayne, who first built this track system, was the biological father of Lord Bat. His conscience died in Crime Alley, and he personally promoted this track project all over Gotham. However, the current convenience project is not that good, mainly because the maintenance cost is also high, and now the Wayne Group is running wild on the road of making money. Niji, who never misses any newspaper information, knows the current situation in Gotham very well. Wayne Group, a well-known enterprise in Gotham, announced its entry into the arms industry some time ago and even listed its shares. To be honest, Niji really wants to buy some shares of Wayne Group, the kind that will definitely maintain value, but he can't afford it. As soon as it was listed, it was swept away by financial companies. The appreciation rate was simply scary. There was really a rush to buy it. However, these stocks may disappoint the ambitious CEO of Wayne Group. He tried his best to kick Mr. Wayne out of the group, but he didn't know that he was about to pack up and leave. Do you know what it means to be a poor Wayne family who only have money? If they don't have anything else, they can negotiate just the money. If it's not enough, add an extra zero. The night shift rail train stopped at the entrance. The train driver wearing a hat looked at the operating platform in front of him and couldn't help but raise his hand and yawned. Niji and Jason got on the train heading for Crime Alley, also known as Park Street. The train was very empty. No one took a car at night to see the night view of Gotham. Just as the two of them sat down by the window, the train door slowly closed and was suddenly blocked by a hand. The car doors that were closed from both sides were pushed back forcibly, and a group of people walked in with their heads tilted and looked at Niji with unkind eyes. Those all bald heads were either from the Monk Temple or from the skinheads who had been beaten by Meowmoo before at the villain bar. Niji leaned on the chair with both hands and looked at them without fear. There were 7 bald heads in total. Among them, the fat man with the inverted cross tattooed on his head should be the boss. The person on the other side was not in a hurry to take action, but sat on the chair opposite Niji. The train door slowly closed, the carriage shook slightly, and the rail train began to move. Those eyes full of malice glanced at Meowmoo. To this, Meowmoo just wanted to say that the road for these people was narrow. He has never been afraid of the hail of bullets from mercenaries, so how can he still stare at dead man like this? I really think everyone is a Superman. It was Jason's performance that made Niji a little surprised. This kid was really not afraid at all. He reached out and grabbed a self-defense wrench inside his clothes. It's rare to have the attitude of taking action if there is a disagreement. The rail train just passed through the most prosperous urban area, the commercial area known as Gotham's Diamond District. Even late at night, the lights were still like torches, and a burst of light shone outside the window. Take action. With almost no words, the skinheads took out the finger sticks and short sticks they carried with them and rushed towards Niji. The carriage was only 2 steps wide, and a spit could reach the other person's face. A sudden outburst was absolutely terrifying, but they provoked the wrong person. The moment they took action, the seedlings suddenly collapsed like a tight spring. He kicked a person in the face, and with a thud, he was kicked out and fell into the carriage. His nose was flattened by the kick, and blood spurted out. At the same time, Niji's arm suddenly swung out like a fully drawn bow, punching the approaching bald man in the face. There was a muffled sound, and he passed out immediately. With the speed of lightning, before anyone in the carriage could react, Niji directly knocked down the 2 of them, and at the same time, smashed his arm horizontally. The arm armor on the arm looks like a leather sports arm brace, and it doesn't look like it's made of solid metal at all. This time it was smashed horizontally, almost no different from a solid steel pipe, and it knocked down a bald head again. Niji stretched out his hand again, grabbed the back of the neck of a bald man who rushed towards Jason, and squeezed hard with his fingers. Practicing boxing is not only the clenched fist, but also the control and use of fingers, finger strength, wrist strength, arm strength, shoulder strength, waist strength, and leg strength. After obtaining the Iron Fist Stone Monkey, the strength control, obtained like enlightenment, was absorbed by the seedlings into the strength of the fingers and wrists. This pinch is not something that most people can withstand, and it is in the back of the neck. It is no less painful than having the flesh pinched and torn raw by iron pliers. The bald man raised his head and screamed after being pinched. Jason in front also screamed and hit the bald man on the head with a wrench hidden in his clothes. With a bang, a stream of blood flowed from the bald man's forehead. His eyes became cross-eyed, and he fainted. Niji casually threw him to the ground and looked at the 3 bald men left. Although it is very suitable to say now, you are surrounded by me. The men stand on the left and the women on the right. Kneel down. However, Niji was a ruthless person who didn't say much, so he just kicked the fat bald man in the stomach. The body, which weighed more than 250 pounds, took off directly, hit the car hard, and fell into a chair again. This time, the entire carriage shook. He turned around and punched a bald man hard on the chest again, causing a crack and a fracture. He fell out as if he had been hit by a cannonball, hitting the aisle in the middle of the carriage, and screamed twice in a daze. There's only one bald person left. Niji turned to look at him, with that cold gaze as if he wanted to kill someone, and his whole person looked murderous. On this night, Jason unconsciously tugged on his coat, and the cold and soothing aura was intimidating. The bald man carrying the short stick was so frightened that he almost cried and could no longer hold the short stick in his hand. Niji reached out and grabbed the stick in his hand and hit him on the head, causing the stick to break into 2 sections. The bald man also fell down with the sound, and half of the stick collapsed onto the roof of the carriage and fell to the ground with a crash. Niji threw away the half-length stick in his hand and raised his chin forcefully, but could not hide the twitching and upturned corners of his mouth. Then just don't hide it. Have you drafted it? Come back when you have the guts, fake squid. Meowmoo was arrogant and excited, stretching out 2 middle fingers and yelling on the spot extremely wildly. As we all know, villains have died from talking too much since ancient times, so he chose to finish talking before waltzing to the grave. This scene was seen by Helena in the carriage behind. She leaned against the passage door of the carriage and watched through the window. When those bald guys started taking action just now, she wanted to go out and help, but just a short time later, they were all lying on the ground. She remembered what her uncle said. This guy is really strong. Chapter 53, A Busy Day. It's dawn. Niji yawned and sat up from the bed, rubbing the gum in the corners of his eyes with his hands, sitting on the floor bed and scratching his messy hair. Jason was still sleeping soundly on the ground. This kid didn't behave like a sleepwalker at night, rolling around on the floor, as if he were sleepwalking. After scratching his head and just standing up from the bed, there was a bang. Niji immediately squatted down and covered his head with tears coming out. "Oh, ah, it hurts me to death." Niji covered his head, gritted his teeth, and cursed secretly for a while, then moved his butt and walked to the door. It said it was a door, but it was actually a cardboard. This is Jason's home, or residence. The location was chosen well. It is under a large water tower on the roadside. The tank of the water tower is above the head. The floor is made of wooden boards below. It is a few meters from the ground. Niji glanced down. Well, at a place as high as 2 floors, the space in the house was okay and spacious. The tidying up was much better than the pig nest that Niji lived in. At least it was divided into categories. It's just that the height inside is too short, so I can only walk squatting. When I raise my head, there's a bang and the head snaps. Niji sat at the door, looking at the gloomy sky above his head. He couldn't tell what time it was. He raised his legs, opened his trousers, and took off the mobile phone tied to his calf. There is something special about being tied up here. If you encounter a robber one day, this is also a first aid method. Call the police. I turned on my phone and looked at it. It was already 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Hey, I've been sleeping for almost a day. Niji grabbed a handful of hair in annoyance. Hugo Strange was probably gone, and he must have a grudge. We have to think of a way to send him in. Arkham's intensive care unit is quite good, but if it doesn't work, Blackgate Prison can also be considered. Niji became hungry after thinking about it. Life is about eating, drinking, and sleeping. Other times are the time to think about life's major events. After feeling around all over my body, I finally took out $5 from the soles of my shoes so I could eat enough bread. I slept so comfortably. Jason got up from the ground, hurried to the window, and pulled open the plastic sheet on it, facing the wall outside the next window. Unbutton your pants and just pee. If the family next to you feels a strange smell on the windowsill, it is probably because a neighbor watered their flowers. After closing the window, Jason sat on the bed and looked at the open door. Was it blown open by the wind again? The street lights outside had already turned on, and for him, it was dawn again. The upside-down sleep made him feel a little lonely. I was about to go outside to find something to eat, and took a look to see if there was anything I could pick up. Maybe there was a gang fight, and I could pick up some money from the corpses. As soon as he bent down, Jason saw the bag placed next to the door, reached out, and took it, and it still smelled good. It's a burger. Jason immediately became energetic and tore open the bag. Inside was a wrapped hamburger, although it was already cold. But this is nothing compared to your belly. Eat. A small burger was eaten by Jason in 2 or 3 bites. After eating, he remembered who gave it to him. I looked at the bag on the ground, and there was a note. Jason rummaged around the house quickly, took a flashlight, plugged in the battery, and looked at the note. It read, "Come to Arkham Police Station to find me, Naedru." Niji, does this name sound familiar? Jason held the note and said thoughtfully, "What did you remember hearing about it?" "Sneeze." Niji, who was standing guard, sneezed and sniffed his nose. He even suspected that he had a cold. "What did you do last night?" "So empty." The old and dishonest Bullock came over, pursed his lips, and said something in an irregular Chinese pronunciation, obviously teasing Niji about where he did something bad last night. "Come on, I went out drinking with Brother Gordon last night." Niji raised his hand and rubbed it under his nose, then turned to look at the mayor's mansion behind him, the ancient Gothic spire villa. He had just returned to the police station from Crime Alley and had not even eaten 2 bites of food when he was urgently transferred here. Tonight is a social gathering between City Hall and Gotham's business aristocrats. The venue is the mayor's mansion, which is also a place where they often come. The specific issue discussed is about the current shortage of police forces in Gotham Police. You have to pay more protection fees, because too many things happened during this period, and they were too serious. There was the Red Hood robbery before, the cash transport truck was robbed later, Arkham mercenaries fought, and Blackgate Prison was raided. There was a fraternity party, and the police station was as big as Gotham and as small as File, and all the police officers with names and brushes were called. Niji was one of them, and even Jerry, who was on vacation, was called over one after another by the director. The director is still Wei Fei. This guy didn't leave immediately because Niji killed those mercenaries. Earned face for the Arkham Police Department. Therefore, Wei Fei reciprocated the favor, and his attitude towards Miao Mu became much better. He just patted his shoulder and encouraged him. Do a good job. I will retire in a few years, and you'll be the director. Hey, that guy still has time to drink. Bullock muttered something and looked behind the mayor's mansion. Gordon also came to guard the backyard. More than 100 elite policemen were deployed around the area. They were really elite, and a skinny camel was bigger than a horse. There are also 2 patrol airships in the sky and a helicopter on standby at any time, which can be said to be armed to the teeth. Niji also wore a body armor, 2 pistols at his waist, and a tactical MP5 submachine gun in his arms. Responsible for guarding the front yard, the police uniforms on his body are all new. Jerry was in charge of the parking lot outside. There were luxury cars one after another, and the traffic lights outside were flashing. However, this kind of defense is actually a flexing of muscles. It has to be shown to those funders that the power of the Gotham Police Department is not as useless as the legend says. No one dares to come here to look for trouble, so just relax, Brock said with a smile, quietly took a step behind Niji, and using the cover, he quickly took out a cigarette and lit one. Comfortable, Bullock exhaled smoke and squinted his eyes with a look of enjoyment. He was an old smoker and an old drinker. But Rob, the boss of the police station, hates the smell of cigarettes. He even held a no-smoking demonstration in the police station, which tortured old smokers like Bullock. If I don't smoke for a day, my whole body will feel uncomfortable, so I can only avoid smoking. Want one? Bullock generously reached out for a cigarette and gave it to Miao Mu. Come on, smoke. You can smoke at other times. Don't let it slip at the critical moment. Niji refused. He hasn't smoked to this extent yet. He only smokes a little occasionally. Who else could come to this place? Really? Bullock shook his head. This is a dragnet. Who has the courage to attack here? Blackgate Prison welcomes him. Boring. There was a sudden power outage in the villa. The window suddenly became dark, and the voices of laughter and laughter inside suddenly became much more panicked. Damn it, no way. When Bullock saw this scene, he was stunned. His mouth was not so good, was he? Who was it? A crashing sound sounded from the air, like a bird flapping its wings in the air. Niji immediately turned on the tactical flashlight on the MP5 submachine gun, shining a white light upward. 2 black pointed ears flashed past. That was the helmet mask. It was Batman. In the entire Gotham, the only person who dared to wear such clothes and was not beaten to death was the big flying rat. Bullock also saw it, and there was no need to doubt it. Only the daring Batman dared to come. Sound the alarm. Others follow me in. Although it seems unreliable, at the critical moment, Bullock can still take a shot and lead people directly to the door. Chapter 54, the mayor's residence was attacked. Open the door. Open the door. Bullock held the gun in his left hand, and the cigarette in his mouth flew away. The door handle in his right hand shook. The door didn't move at all. It was locked from the inside. Get out of the way. Niji held the submachine gun, drove away the people around him, and fired 2 shots at the door handle. The sound of the gunshots was clear and crisp, but the bullet hit the door and bounced away. Well, the door is bulletproof, a policeman said with some embarrassment, a twisted expression on his face. Bullock quickly went to the window and smashed the glass of the window. The pistol grip hit the glass, almost causing the jaw to crack. The glass is also bulletproof. The walls have been specially reinforced. I have nothing to say. Why was such a solid, fortress-like villa built? What a dragnet. They locked it in the safe. The robber and the hostage are together. By the way, Batman is not a robber. He is scarier than the robber, and the robber still wants money after all. Bullock was so anxious that he had a toothache. He quickly took the pager and called people around him to come over and ask about the power outage. No, the power station has been damaged. We don't have enough time to repair it. The policeman at the voltage generator held a flashlight and shined it on the sparking switch, with a black batarang inserted into it. It's still reparable. Just replace it with a new one. Bullock was so angry that he couldn't let it out, so he quietly slapped himself in the mouth, saying what he wanted to say. They were so anxious that the dignitaries in the room were like ants on the hot pot. and they almost screamed for help. Meow Moo, who was holding a submachine gun next to him, looked up at the roof of the villa. This villa was a 2-story spire building. Batman entered through the roof. "Get on the roof. Quick!" Niji grabbed a stool that was used as a stepping stone and climbed up directly by the window. Brock slapped his thigh and remembered. "Go up. Bring the helicopter over." The seedlings climbed from the first floor to the second floor and tried to break the windows, but each one was as strong as cast iron. Fortunately, this kind of ancient building has many decorations and many things that can be grasped. It is not difficult to climb up. The whirring sound of the rotors sounded. A white beam of searchlight fell on the roof, and the helicopter came. Niji looked up, stepped on the black tiles under his feet, picked up the submachine gun, took 2 steps forward, and found the place where Batman had sneaked in, the chimney. The chimney hidden behind the Shark Corner building is really a blind spot. The chimney used to burn the fireplace for heating. Is this a Black Santa? Delivering gifts? Niji couldn't help but joked, thinking quickly in his mind, why is Batman here at this time? There must be a reason, but I couldn't figure it out for a while. So I took a flashlight and looked under the chimney and shined it. There are indeed traces of someone climbing on it, but it's a bit narrow. I don't know if Batman is a cat or if he can shrink his bones. Maybe it's the bone shrinking skill. Niji thought to himself, after looking at the air support helicopter before Bullock and the others climbed up. Niji detached the tactical flashlight from the submachine gun and bit it in his mouth. After taking off his body armor and jumping onto the chimney, Niji looked at the hole below, took a breath, and jumped in. If someone else was below, Niji wouldn't even bet and wouldn't enter directly. But Batman is different. At least no one could die on his side. What's great is that he died of serious injuries. The chimney was very narrow and filled with ashes. The seedlings dropped more than 3 meters, and you could hear the whispers below. It seemed that Batman hadn't appeared yet. But why did Batman come? Niji's descent slowed down a little, and he thought carefully. The mayor's official residence. Mayor? The official residence. No way. With this connection, Niji actually thought of one thing. Batman's reputation is far-reaching, including the raid on the mayor's mansion. Batman has been punishing criminals in Gotham more often, and his confidence has also increased. As we all know, Gotham has many crime incidents, so what else is conspicuous? Corrupt congressmen, corrupt police, underworld gangs colluding with each other, and Batman is here to declare a war. He wants to go to war with everyone. FK, I won't go down anymore. When he thought of this, Niji quickly stopped. How could he delay such a thing? At least wait until Batman's threat is over. The blade on the armor popped out, pierced the cuff of the police uniform, and inserted into the crack in the wall of the chimney, allowing the seedling to stop here steadily. And just below the chimney, the main living room where the fireplace is located has become a hot pot of ants. The mayor, Don Mitchell Jr., was so anxious that he almost cursed, and the police boss Loeb opposite him didn't look good. I am afraid that something will happen, and it is really a bad year. Gathered here are Gotham celebrities, elites, and nobles who control power and money. Any accident would have unbearable consequences. The banquet living room was dark and exuded an eerie atmosphere just when the power went out. There was a lot of trouble, and some women were so frightened that they screamed, but some people stood up and gave them a shot in the arm to calm them down. Without him, the person who stood up was called Falcone, the godfather of Gotham's underworld, a Roman. Behind him were several tough bodyguards, like bears guarding their food, never leaving. Just when Falcone was about to say a few words, a light suddenly lit up on the dining table. It was blue fire. The wine-drunken shrimps in an iron plate are glowing with blue fire, which is also the way to eat and perform this dish. But who lit the fire? Everyone looked over there. A strong black figure stood there, and he could be felt even in the dark. The flames on the drunken shrimp suddenly grew larger, illuminating the appearance of the black figure, with black armor, skin, pointed ears. It's Batman. Everyone present was shocked, and some women couldn't bear it anymore and screamed in fear. The already unstable situation became even more chaotic. To them, Batman is just an urban legend, a man-eating vampire. How could he appear in front of them? Batman just looked at them coldly, looking at these people who had devoured Gotham's wealth and spirit with vengeful anger. Your dinner party is over. I will bring you all to justice and go to prison to repent. Batman said something coldly, and a smoke bomb fell from the middle of the crowd as if it had been placed somewhere in advance. In an instant, light gray smoke covered the entire living room. The originally nervous crowd, the well-dressed gentlemen and ladies, completely lost their etiquette and upbringing in this unknown panic. They were fighting over each other, and they crashed into a ball in the living room. Batman took a lid on the table and covered the drunken shrimp. The last light disappeared. Batman suddenly kicked out, and two strong men punched him, the Roman bodyguards. The bodyguards who could follow the Romans must be one of the best in strength, but what they met was Batman. In the shroud of smoke, the two strong bodyguards had their arms twisted off and fell to the ground. The fastest way to deal with the enemy was to attack the opponent's weak points. Muscles can be strengthened, but joints cannot. Batman stepped forward, and the thermal imaging system of the contact lens glasses in his eyes was turned on. Nothing could escape his eyes in this darkness. And this time he came not only to warn these collusive guys, he also came for one person. Roman Falcone. Chapter 55, Falcone Niji. Can you stay down there? Bullock climbed up the ladder to the roof, lay on the chimney mouth, and shouted downwards, while 6 or 7 flashlights were shining downwards. What the hell? It's stuck. Get a rope and bring it down. Niji raised his head and shouted, retracted the blade on his arm armor, stepped on the walls on both sides to support his body, and remained motionless. The powerful ladies in the hall are not scared out of their wits yet. What's he going to do down there? Let's experience the terror of Batman. Wait. Bullock quickly asked someone to come up with a rope. Do you want me to go down and help you? Bullock was lying on the chimney mouth again, shouting down. You dare to come down and try. I'll stab you with my knife and open a hole in your butt. Niji moved his feet and moved downward slowly. When the block came down here, it was really stuck. After a while, Miamu stepped on the ground and finally reached the end. When he looked outside, it was darker than inside the fireplace. This villa is very big. At least this banquet place can accommodate more than 100 people without any problem. But the problem is that once you turn off the lights, you really can't see anything, but you can see a little bit of the smoke sprayed from the smoke bomb. Don't move at all. Put your hands up. Niji pulled out the Glock 17 pistol with a flashlight attached to it from his waist and shouted sharply in front of him. The flashlight under the barrel of the gun shot out a white light, shining in front, making the already chaotic crowd even more noisy. Save me. Hurry up. Don't shoot. Lord, bless your believers. When something happens, this group of people will do anything, and some will kneel on the ground and pray for God's blessing. It's really speechless. However, the police boss Loeb, who was in the crowd, dragged the mayor and hid behind the sofa, not daring to show his head. We, ourselves, know that as far as the actions of the Gotham police are concerned, if something goes wrong, at least it will be safer here. Shut up. Niji raised his pistol and fired 2 shots at the ceiling, as if there were crystal chandeliers on the ceiling. The sound of breaking glass crackled overhead, and the pieces fell to the ground. It frightened all the nervous people. In fact, it was more than just frightening. They were all frightened out of their wits. The chandelier above the head is a classical crystal lamp. Its outstanding feature is that it is large and heavy. This one will fall down. Everyone present can burn the glass relics. Wait, don't shoot. I'm Police Chief Loeb. Who are you from that police station? Loeb stuck his head out from behind the sofa and shouted. Niji quickly shined the flashlight over, and it was indeed Police Chief Loeb, but his finger made Loeb scream like a groundhog in fear. Get away. Get away. Don't point the gun at people. Yes. Niji held the gun with both hands and turned the muzzle. The light of the flashlight scanned the surroundings, and the smoke had dispersed. Those dignitaries were more embarrassed than the last. The one lying on the ground with his but sticking out and imageless was a government member, shivering and squatting next to the dining table. Hugging the legs of the table like a koala was an upstart from Gotham's business community. His dazzling blonde hair was also washed away by the red wine spilled on the table. The woman sitting on the ground with her long skirt torn raised her hands to block the light. She was a famous female star in the entertainment industry in Gotham. The embarrassed looks of each of them were just like the refugees smuggled over from South America, and there was no trace of the nobility and elegance at all. Niji has no sympathy for this, and even feels a little secretly happy. Damn, you guys are still here too? The light of the flashlight shone on the wall, and a black bat figure shivered in fright. Suddenly, it was indeed a bit too scary, especially in such a tense state. If the safety of the pistol hadn't been turned off, a series of bullets would have been fired just now. Niji quickly raised the gun and looked at it. Not Batman, a human being? Niji looked at the person stuck on the wall with some confusion. His body was stuck to the wall with black tape, just like a big bat with its wings spread out. This is also the symbol of Batman. Woo! The man on the wall saw the light and struggled quickly, but with tape on his mouth, he could only whimper. Who are you? Niji asked, looking around cautiously. Batman is definitely here. This house is a tight-fitting safe, and the only entrance and exit, the chimney, is also blocked by Bullock. Although he was not sure if there were any other exits, he could not take it lightly. Niji glanced at the celebrities around him and stepped forward. He was a little suspicious that Batman had now become Bruce Wayne, perhaps pretending to be pitiful and observing with a playboy appearance. Niji walked to the wall and saw a strong man lying unconscious on the ground. His arms were folded in the opposite direction, and his elbow joint was twisted, which made it painful to look at it. This is 100% Batman's work. The medical staff at Blackgate Prison have all become orthopedic experts and can set bones without taking pictures. Half of this is due to Batman. Sufficient training materials are provided. Only those who are familiar with it are required. With a snap, the tape on his face was torn off, and a layer of his beard was also torn off, causing Falcone to take a deep breath. You have the guts, Falcone said with tears streaming down his face. It was really painful, and tears flowed out unconsciously. Niji shook off the tape on his hand. This thing is really sticky, as strong as a sticky mouse board. Then Niji looked at the old man in front of him. He must be 50 or 60 years old. His dyed black hair could not hide his aging face, and his knife-like wrinkles made him look particularly tough. But the 3 scars on his cheek made Niji's heart move. The scars were like those scratched by a cat. 3 neat ones. Combined with the place here and so many people, Batman would stick to such an old man. Although Batman kicked Gotham nursing homes and punched Gotham orphanages, he was still a good person. If you can't get along with an ordinary old man, it means that this old man is extremely extraordinary. Combining the clues, there is only one truth. This old man is Roman Falcone, the godfather of the Gotham underworld. Niji blinked and suddenly regretted tearing off the tape. He quickly pretended to be nonchalant and ran to open the door. Click, the bulletproof door that was locked was opened by Niji from the inside. The police outside had just transferred the cutting saw from the outside, and the door opened. Go in. Protect the people around you, and be alert. Gordon quickly raised his gun and shouted. The door opened, flashlights shone inside, and Meowmoo took the opportunity to slip out. It was a mess inside, but the situation was still under control. When Police Chief Lobb saw Gordon coming in, he stood up from behind the sofa and resumed commanding the scene. Celebrities were all helped out one by one. This was definitely their most exciting night. The power was reconnected, and the mayor's mansion was lit up again. Gordon looked at the crystal chandelier above his head and turned off his flashlight. Seeing Falcone stuck to the wall, Gordon wanted to laugh. He walked to the wall and admired the leader of the Gotham underworld. Your outfit is very nice. Gordon complimented. Thank you. I feel the same way, Chief Gordon. Falcone was not angry at all, but joked pleasantly. I will let you go back to prison. Absolutely. Gordon said in a deep voice, but his voice was very low. Only the two of them could hear it. That depends on your ability, but don't wait until I die. You haven't finished it yet. Falcone responded with a smile. Luxury cars, escorted by police cars with red and blue lights flashing, left the mayor's mansion. Falcone, who was the last to leave, also left here in a car under the escort of his men. A convoy of 6 black cars protected Falcone's car in the middle. That ferocious momentum is 3 points stronger than the Gotham police. They're known as the Roman Guards. Go tell those people that whoever kills that big bat is entitled to the most profitable venue in Gotham. Falcone, who was sitting in the car, rubbed his temples tiredly. That Batman really made him feel threatened. Since there is a threat, then it must be solved. In Gotham, the most indispensable thing is guys who want to get ahead. As long as you throw out enough bait, countless piranhas will jump out of the Blackwater River called Gotham. Falcone touched the corners of his mouth out of habit, and he grinned in pain when he touched the place where his beard had been torn off. That frizzy little policeman. Chapter 56 Batman Afterwards. The police searched the entire villa and found no trace of Batman. But this incident was extremely bad. If Batman had some crooked thoughts, it would be unimaginable that the City Hall would directly approve the Gotham Police Department's special funds. There is only one request: let Batman get out. It is best to get out of jail directly. He will face charges of 300 years in prison. Blackgate Prison has also undergone a second reconstruction and maintenance. The armored vehicles more than 30 years ago were pulled out of the warehouse, repainted and repaired, and changed into tank escort vehicles with turrets. Gotham police departments, both large and small, have also received financial support to expand their police force and maintain the security of Gotham. In the Gotham Police Headquarters, Police Chief Loeb transferred back James Gordon, who is serving as an instructor at the police training base. There are only a few cards that the Gotham Police Department can use. Although Gordon is not liked by him, he does have ability. Gordon was in charge of the special case unit to capture the evil Batman, and Loeb even issued a death order within 3 months. Before Christmas comes, capture Batman and let him spend Christmas in a special cell in Blackgate Prison. This mission looks full of flaws, just like the old General MacArthur, holding a cornpipe and posing a flag to the American soldiers. We will go home before Christmas to celebrate the new year. And it turns out that Gordon is not easy to fool. After so many years of ups and downs in the Gotham Police Department, Bruce Wayne was working in the police department when his parents died. He did not join gangs, did not accept illegal money, and had a sense of justice. He may be a little stubborn, but he is not pedantic at all. Faced with this almost impossible task, he took it on, but there are conditions. The first is that he wants command power. Batman flies into the sky and escapes the Earth, coming and going without a trace. There is not enough police force, so there is no need to try to catch him. There was no problem with this condition. Loeb agreed on the spot, and even the 4 additional patrol airships were transferred to him. Second, if you want to catch Batman, you need elite soldiers. He needs a team of elite police officers, and he can issue orders directly. Loeb hesitated about this condition. The police in charge of the mayor's residence were indeed elite, with the lowest level being 4th-level police detectives, but they were also responsible for the situation in a fixed jurisdiction. In the final discussion, Gotham City, including the City Center, Diamond District, Old City, Municipal District, Financial District, Fashion District, and New City can provide support, but cannot be mobilized. To the north of the boundary between the Upper East and Upper West sides, Gordon can transfer those at the police officer level on his own. The third condition is that Gordon wants arrest warrants and search warrants, not just for Batman, but also for other people who helped Batman. The arrest warrant and search warrant both needed to be signed by the district attorney, but Loeb agreed after hesitating. When all 3 conditions are fulfilled, Batman will face the roundup of Gotham's black and white gangs. On the underworld, Batman's head has been clearly marked with a price, attracting countless ambitious people, sharpening their knives and waiting for Batman to appear. In the Batcave, Batman had taken off his equipment and returned to Bruce Wayne, holding a soldering iron to repair the equipment. The Batcave is also tidied up, and the storage racks on the wall are also filled with various equipment. Under the flowing waterfall, the heavy Bat chariot is parked quietly on the turntable. Click, 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 the old-fashioned elevator made a vibrating sound falling from above, and Alfred came over with a cup of viscous green liquid. Looking at Bruce, who was wearing goggles, holding a laser welder, and modifying equipment, Alfred raised his eyebrows helplessly. "Master Bruce, have you read today's news?" "News?" After Bruce finished welding the equipment, he stopped the laser welding and took off the glasses on his face. The black eye shadow on his face had not yet been wiped off. He reached out to take the cup in Alfred's hand, took a sip, and his expression suddenly wrinkled. Obviously, the taste was not good. Bruce still frowned, drank the glass of liquid, put down the glass, and took several deep breaths. This was even more embarrassing than him inhaling the fear gas. Although he had drank it many times, he still wasn't used to the taste. This was a mysterious formula he got from a traveling miracle doctor when he was traveling around the world. Worm tea. As the name suggests, it is tea related to insects. To be precise, it is a tea drink made from the poop produced by a special kind of insect after eating medicinal materials. It is a good medicine that can quickly restore physical strength and enhance energy. This is also the secret why he can haunt Gotham at night, every day, and never miss work. Of course, good medicine tastes bitter, and he has never been able to overcome this sad taste. What other big news is there in Gotham? There doesn't seem to be anything big happening on my computer. Bruce looked at the back computer aside, and there was no alert popping up on it that a vicious crime had occurred in that place. The back computer is connected to the Gotham Police Department. Whenever there is a call to the police, Batman knows it faster than the police. Batman has become the biggest criminal. Alfred took out a newspaper from behind and placed it on the table. Bruce picked up the newspaper and took a look at it. Are you also blaming me for what I did last night? No. Alfred cleared the table on one side and said it without any hesitation. What you did is right, but you should not be an enemy of the entire Gotham. Those people control 80% of Gotham's wealth and power. The glory of the Wayne family cannot provide you with much. Shelter. Alfred considered his tone before saying the word protection, but what he actually wanted to say was that the Wayne family could not withstand the consequences of being enemies of Gotham. Because of the existence of the Wayne Group, the Wayne family is a famous family in Gotham. Otherwise, it would have declined long ago. And the glory of the Wayne family cannot stop the bullets being fired. They don't represent Gotham. Gotham is a city that belongs to Gothamites. Bruce said without worry. Okay, but you still have to go to Wayne Group to show your face. You have been staying here all the time. There has been no news about you outside for too long. Some people should be curious about what the richest man in Gotham is doing. Alfred said with a smile, took out his reading glasses from his pocket, put them on, and took out a stack of folded business cards with photos on them. They are all women with good conduct and outstanding appearance. If others saw this scene, they would think that the old housekeeper was being disrespectful by stuffing so many business cards in his arms. But in Bruce's eyes, it was difficult to accept the invitation. Instead of accompanying those women on dates, he wanted to go out and fight crime. Oh my God, the new official is very angry when he takes office. Gordon is really holding back his anger. In the Arkham police station, Niji, who was sitting on a chair, looked at the task sheet in his hand and listed more than 20 tasks. The 4 regional branches cooperated in the operation. The Gotham Police Department's major crime team cooperated in the operation, and the special forces mobilized. It almost lifted half of Gotham's momentum, and the target was Maroni, who had just been released from prison. The operational goal of the mission is to target Sonny Maroni's mafia organization and the Maroni family's territory and sweep it away. This matter is nothing. But what is interesting is that the tasks that the 4 branches need to perform are all in the jurisdiction of the other party. The Arkham PD are going on a mission to the Upper East Side, and there are also task indicators. This move was a bit cruel, and Niji felt that he had indeed underestimated Gordon, an honest man. You must know that the Gotham police and the underworld almost all wear the same pants. The so-called inspections and raids only deal with small gangs without backers. Now you know that the other party's jurisdiction is the territory of that gang, and you didn't give me a confession, so it's business? Niji looked again and saw that there was still time to perform the task. He acted in unison and reached out to grab the phone on the table. Milo, let the brothers in offices number 1 and 2 prepare. We will go to the Upper East Side to perform the mission. Keep it secret. Chapter 57. Driving away wolves and devouring tigers. With a call from Niji, 3 police cars were ready outside. Not only was he now the number 1 person in the Arkham Police Department. Another reason is that after the money from the City Hall arrived, Niji did not expect that Gotham's corrupt bureaucracy would explode with such great power. Before he even got up this morning, people from the City Hall had already delivered the funds and supplies. The funds are used to expand police recruitment. According to the old rules, these funds will be divided into 30 and 70%. Chief Wei Fei will get 70%, and he'll have to take a share of the remaining 30%, and the rest will be used to recruit troops. But under Niji's kind smile, Director Wei Fei was inconvenient and asked for leave. It was said that he was moving. By the way, Niji arranged for 2 police officers to come over to help. The funds were really quite large, with a total of 320,000 in cash, which was enough to recruit people. But Niji divided the money. In a previous Arkham Asylum incident, 3 police officers from the Arkham Police Department died, and 1 was seriously injured, and their pensions have not yet been paid. The dead policeman's family got 20,000 yuan first, and the seriously injured one got 10,000 yuan. The other Arkham policeman also got a share. To be honest, just at this moment, Niji almost got a yellow robe. He has both ability and money. Such a boss is hard to find. Wei Fei was directly eliminated. There were only about 30 people in the Arkham Police Department. Between them, if Niji hadn't been a little lower in qualifications, he would have kicked the director out now. Open the firearms arsenal. We sent over this morning to replenish the firearms. Equip them all. I will take you to fight the autumn wind. Miaomu came down from upstairs wearing a coat like a bandit mountain eagle, waved his hand, and shouted unceremoniously. It was the classic car at the back of the motorcade that gave him a little pain. Where did the city hall get it from? It's a kind of old-fashioned car, just like the Beetle. What's even more outrageous is that the front bumper is still made of solid I-beam, which is strong. There are 2 boxes of new weapons in the gun arsenal, but they're new weapons to them. But the equipment is also divided according to local areas. When it is the turn of the Arkham District, only ordinary police shotguns are left. 2 in a box. A total of 4 Remington M870 shotguns, fired with number 12 shotguns, with a magazine capacity of 7 rounds, without modification. I still like this gun Niji very much. At least it has enough lethality. It can break down doors and hail taxis. All living beings are equal at close range. Even if you're wearing a body armor, you have to lie down and cool down. Report 1-2, the 12 people in the office have been assembled. Milo held a shotgun in his arms, raised his head, and saluted, but the corner of his mouth was harder to press than the AK. He really liked the feeling of being in the limelight. Niji nodded, glanced at the police officers who were standing by the car with their chests raised and their heads raised, and he took a step forward and said, "We are all family people. There is no need to risk our lives for a few $100s. But what if it's thousands of dollars?" When these words were said, the police officers, including Milo, were stunned for a moment. "No? What are you talking about? We are going to the Upper East District today to crack down on gangsters and eliminate evil. We will arrest gamblers and drug addicts, and fines will be confiscated. Those arrested will be sent to the Upper East District Police Station. That is not our jurisdiction. Let's go." When Niji said this, he grinned. Gordon dares to play the trick of changing the law enforcement, and he doesn't mind following the trend, chasing away the wolves and gobbling up the tigers, and earning his vote. Nothing is more exciting than making money, and if those gangs are eliminated one by one, it can be regarded as business. The veterans of the police station posing beside the car also laughed knowingly when they heard this suggestion. The gangsters in Arkham District turned a blind eye because they paid the protection money on time. Of course, whether they could control it or not was another matter. After all, here in Arkham, there are some places where even the police dare not enter, but don't treat them as a freeloader. It's easier for them to bully the ordinary gangs than to eat melon seeds. Let's go to the Upper East Side. By the way, Milo, go and make a copy of Gotham's wanted list. Nigma's laptop is still in the warehouse. Bring it over and use it. Niji took the shotgun from Milo and sent him to the warehouse to get the computer, while Nigma went to help Otis with the lawsuit. Retired prosecutor receives bomb threat. This matter is still useful after all, but the lawsuit still needs to be fought. So this matter is all left to Nigma, that pretentious guy who is very interested in anything that is difficult. And this lawsuit is going to be fought in Star City, which is the city where Green Arrow is located. But Green Arrow seems to be still trying to survive on a desert island as Robinson Crusoe because there is no trace of him in Star City. The name sounds a lot like Green Arrow gum, and the guy looks similar too. He is dressed in green and imitates Robin Hood. He is proficient in bow and arrow shooting skills. He is also an ordinary person and does not have super abilities. And he is also a rich playboy, just like Bruce Wayne, both of whom were born in orphanages. Compared to Batman, one of the 5 giants who catch and destroy whomever, Green Arrow is much worse, just a second-tier hero. After becoming a superhero, he and his good friend, who is also a Green Lantern, traveled across the United States and wandered around the world, seeking the true American spirit and the way to salvation. Then, he became a Marxist. He is also one of the few left-wing people among superheroes. Every Christmas, he gives Green Lantern a copy of Das Kapital to commemorate that long journey. Milo had already ran out with his laptop, and Niji's city Hummer was leading the way, driving in front. The motorcade drove out of the police station in a mighty manner. When they were in front of the police station, the driver, Niji, braked and stopped. The police car behind almost rear-ended him, and the policeman driving the car wondered if Niji had pooped his pants. Why he suddenly stopped. The door of the Hummer was pushed open, and Meow Moo got out of the car and looked at the telephone pole on the roadside. There was a figure hiding behind it, just like an ostrich, looking at its head but not its buttocks. Jason, Niji called over there. Jason poked his head out from behind the telephone pole and looked at the police uniform on Niji and the domineering Hummer police car behind him. He didn't react for a while. Why did the big brother I recognized become a policeman? Silly. Niji walked over and waved his hand. No, you're a policeman. Jason blinked, but still didn't come over. How would he be a policeman? Detective. Look at this. A senior police detective is several levels higher than an ordinary police officer. Niji took out the police badge wallet from his arms and opened it to reveal the ID inside. This, Jason looked at the ID, tilted his head, and considered whether he should run away. How could Niji let him run away? After seeing a hint of retreat in his eyes, Niji reached out and grabbed Jason's clothes, tucked him under his arm, and walked towards the Hummer. Opening the back door of the car, Niji stuffed Jason in. Want to run? There is no way. I'll take care of my son. Niji smiled, making the 2 policemen in the car look at him, and Jason's eyes even widened. This kid looks smart. The 2 police officers quickly moved out of the way, letting Jason sit in the middle, and rainbow farts came one after another. The exaggerated statement made all the seedlings frown. Okay, this is the first time I realized that you are still so eloquent. Why haven't you been able to speak like this before? Niji drove the car, picked up the pager, and shouted to the car behind. Let's go. After saying that, he stepped on the accelerator and took the lead. The 2 policemen at the back also laughed awkwardly. The money in their pockets was still warm. The new boss took them to make money again. Not to mention the rainbow fart. Even licking leather shoes was not out of the question. Brother Meow, is he really your son? Milo, who was in the passenger seat, asked with a suppressed smile. You happen to be 12 years older than him. Yeah, I'm gifted. Niji glared at Milo with a murderous look. This stupid young man didn't know what would happen if he teased his boss. After crossing the steel bridge, Niji braked, drove Milo out of the car, and let him run forward. I'm used to it. You really think I'm a good person? Niji drove the car and looked at Milo running like a dog in the rearview mirror, feeling much more relaxed. As soon as he felt relieved, a long-lost voice sounded in his mind, causing another happy smile to appear on Niji's face. Ding! The adventure treasure has been refreshed. Please explore by yourself. Chapter 58 Upper East Side Sweep. The door was kicked open. The man who was gambling in the room quickly turned his head and looked over. There was a bang, and a piece of cement fell from the ceiling and landed on the table. Arkham Police Department is on duty. Squat down. Hurry. Bang. Another gunshot. The wolf-like Arkham policeman, armed with pistols, rushed in from the outer facade and pushed the gambler next to the gaming table heavily onto the table. Squat down. Hold your head with your hands. That's you. Squat down. Squat down. The Arkham policeman held guns with both hands and roared to control the situation, pressing all the gamblers around them to the ground. This not-so-small underground casino suddenly became a mess, and some people took the opportunity to run out. As soon as they ran out of the door, They were kicked back by Meow Moo, who was walking towards them. Men stand on the left. Women stand on the right. Those who are neither men nor women stand in the middle, holding their heads in their hands. Niji shouted with the pistol on his waist. FKUBCH. A gangster squatting next to the counter took out a pistol from under the table, gritted his teeth, and stood up, ready to fight to the death. Seeing this scene, Niji just pulled out his pistol, and it was like a firecracker was lit in the casino with a series of bangs, bangs, and bangs. To say the least, it must be the kind where the ground is red and the thunder is loud. The air circulation in the casino is poor. The smell of gunpowder smoke is stronger, and now there's also the smell of blood. The gangster who wanted to fight with a gun has also completed his desperate mission. He had been shot at least 30 times, and Niji could see clearly that 4 bullets hit the guy's head at the same time, splitting into pieces like a watermelon smashed by a hammer. Ah! A woman who saw the corpse screamed, her voice as harsh as a glass whistle. The gamblers also started a commotion. Niji kicked down a gambler who was about to make a move. "I'll give you 1 minute, get out." Niji shouted again to the nervous police who were ready to shoot at any moment. "Arrest the main characters and control the situation." The police in Arkham, after experiencing the mercenary incident, shot faster than anything else, and they all had a battlefield stress reaction. However, this is not a bad thing. All the gamblers in the casino hurriedly ran out, leaving only a few people in the casino, and the gangsters who were pinned to the ground and handcuffs were put on. "Let me go. I'm Mr. Maroney's man. I want to see your director. Do you know what you are doing?" A man in a suit who looked like a manager was pinned down on the table by the police and struggled fiercely. "Maroney? It's not his territory, and I won't step on it yet. Our director is not here, so if you have anything to do, just tell me." Niji walked over and said condescendingly. The casino manager struggled, turned his head from the table, and looked at the strange policeman in front of him. He didn't remember that there was such a policeman in this neighborhood. But no matter what, the Upper East District Police Department is their protective umbrella, and the money they pay each month is not a small amount. "I want to see Director Mason. You will pay the price for treating me so rudely." "Let me go," the casino manager shouted loudly. Home Mason, chief of the Upper East Side Police Department. The Upper East Side is similar to the Arkham District. They are both old and poor areas with many gangs, gangsters, PRSD youths, and homeless people. The crime rate is also high. However, the Arkham District is a triangular island surrounded by water on 3 sides, and it is only so large. There's also a nasty Arkham Asylum on it, which has a bad reputation and a bad reputation. The Upper East Side is a huge area. There were originally many heavy industry factories. However, with the elimination of old industries, poor management, and the latest environmental protection laws, a large number of factories and companies have closed down. A large number of laid-off employees held signs and demonstrated in front of the city hall every 2 days. And these people have also become the breeding ground for gangs. The unemployed, homeless people without money are only a knife away from the robbers. Niji glanced pitifully at the casino manager, who was still trying to show off his power, and winked at the policeman next to him. "Tell him where the police are from." "Yes." The policeman forced a smile on his face, rolled up his sleeves, and slapped the casino manager in the face with a snap. There was a red slap mark on the casino manager's face. He was angry and painful, and his eyes almost popped out. "Bah, I am a policeman from Arkham District, not those rotten fish and shrimps you bribed." The policeman shouted righteously. He really dared to say this. The seedlings next to him curled their lips in embarrassment. The crows in the world are as black as any other. I dare not say anything else. Their Arkham District receives a lot of dividends every month, but in comparison, it's very small. After all, it's really poverty. The Upper East Side have a lot to offer, and the amount offered is the envy of Arkham District. Now it's their turn. Other people's territory must be dealt with in a fair manner. Whenever a criminal is let go, it is their fault. Justice must be carried out with a roar. "Found it." Milo ran out of the warehouse below the casino, carrying a packaging bag that was just like a flour bag. It fell to the ground with a plop, and the bag contained 250 grams of high-purity white powder in separate bags. The evidence was conclusive. The casino manager, who was pressed on the table, turned pale when he saw this bag. Ever since he heard about Arkham District, he felt something was wrong. Why did the police from other areas come to them? Niji took out the task list from his arms, looked at the tasks marked on it, and crossed out the casino. Take pictures, contact Gotham TV and reporters. Send the prisoner to the Upper East District Police Station. Niji raised his hand and ordered, "Yes, get up and go. Hurry up." The two policemen escorted the casino manager outside. As they passed each other, the casino manager saw the task list in Zhang Shuhu's hand, which was all about the Maroney family's territory. Even the stores that have drugs are marked with signs indicating that they are all going to be eradicated. Thinking of this, the casino manager didn't care about anything else and ran straight towards Niji, trying to destroy the to-do list. But how could Niji let him succeed? He kicked him back with one kick. "There's something wrong." Niji cursed. The two policemen grabbed the casino manager and treated him with a flurry of punches and kicks. They punched him twice in the abdomen, causing the casino manager to be unable to straighten up in pain. Niji watched the people in the casino being escorted out, leaned on the gaming table on the side, and looked at the task list in his hand. I thought to myself, Gordon really bites people without barking and opens his mouth with cruelty. If these things are eliminated, the power of the Maroney family will be reduced by at least half. Moreover, the police in other areas are still in charge, so there is no need to think about showing mercy. It is good not to be skinned alive. But did Gordon really come up with this thing? Niji was really a little confused. In his impression, Gordon was quite honest. This kind of resolute, ruthless, and decisive moves didn't feel like his handiwork, but a bit like that big bat that doesn't sleep at night and runs around. Report. Everyone is escorted into the car. How to deal with this? Milo pointed to the gangster who was beaten to death on the ground. Pull up the cordon and let the people from the Upper East Side come over to wash the floors. We help them work? They can't just watch, right? Niji said as he walked outside. Soldiers are very quick. You go and see them off. We'll go to the 0-point bar to stop people. We'll meet there and finish the mission before dark. Yes. Milo hurriedly ran out, and 3 heavily overloaded police cars swayed away. To be honest, it was a bit of a miscalculation. I should have borrowed 2 escort vehicles from Arkham Asylum when I came here. The escort truck in Arkham Asylum is similar to the canister escort truck in Blackgate Prison. It is a single white one. Let's go to snack bar. Who knows where it is? Niji took out a pistol and loaded it, looking at the several policemen around him. I know. Jason, who was standing by the wall, holding a bottle of Coke, raised his hand and said, I've been there, on Street 14, at the first intersection. Good job, let's go. Miyamu smiled and raised his hand, rubbed Jason's head, and called people to rush over there. Chapter 59-0-0's actions were still very fast. Niji didn't give them a chance at all. He kicked in the door and shot at the ceiling. The people inside thought it was an armed robbery, and when they were going out to get money, they were pressed against the wall by the Arkham police and handcuffed with a click. Only then did those people realize, these bastards who are like robbers. What kind of police are they? FK, you bastards. Who are you? I want to see Director Mason. The bar owner was handcuffed to a chair on the side and struggled fiercely. Apparently, he thought Niji and the others were the police from the Upper East Side. Stop howling. You'll see Mason later. I'll send you all to the Upper East Side police station. Come take this and open your mouth. Niji held a bag of white powder and stuffed it into the bar owner's mouth. Next to him, Milo held a camera. Click take photo. The photo popped up immediately from the Polaroid camera. Niji took the photo and shook it, and it developed. Tell me, where's the goods? Niji asked, holding the photo. We can discuss it. The bar owner spat out the powder on his face and said angrily, Our boss is Maroney. Please give me a convenience, and I will thank you greatly in the future. Please, respect your mother. Stop talking nonsense to me. Where are the things? Niji didn't give him any face at all. As for Sal Maroney, he's a piece of shit. He can't even get a single room in Blackgate Prison, so it's not worth worrying about. The bar owner looked at Niji and hesitated. Can I make a call? Niji was amused by his words and turned around and waved to an Arkham policeman. The guy came over and punched the bar owner in the stomach. Draw it up. Let me tell you, you are not qualified to negotiate terms with me. Where's the stuff? It's not in the warehouse. With a ferocious expression on his face, Meow grabbed the bar owner's hair and shook him around, causing the bar owner to quickly beg for mercy. It's been taken away. It's been taken away. Get rid of it. He slapped the bar owner again in the face. Niji covered his numb hands and cursed. Don't think I will reason with you. Your family's rule of silence is of no use to me. Just speak out if you don't want to die. Pulling out the revolver from his waist, Niji opened the magazine and poured out all the bullets. Then he picked up a bullet and shook it in front of the bar owner. Then he put it into the bomb nest, and Meow turned the bomb nest twice with his eyes closed, and a clicking sound was heard. With a click, the cartridge resets. Niji used his fingers to pull the hammer on the back of the gun and put the gun on the head of the bar owner. The bar owner was already sweating. I can't say. The bar owner cried. I only count 3 times. 1. Niji closed his eyes and shouted out the first number, and the Arkham policemen around him also turned around in cooperation. Sweat as big as file size of wine beans slipped from the bar owner's forehead, condensed into sweat droplets from the bridge of his nose, and fell on his pants. The rule of silence is the law of the mafia and one of the highest commandments. No member can violate or violate it. We must maintain absolute silence to the police and the government. Never disclose any information, let alone betray our own people. This was also the reason why Oswald had to beat around the bush in the beginning when Niji and the others went to Oswald for help. 3. When the last number came out, Niji immediately pulled the trigger. The bar owner gritted his teeth and closed his eyes as if he had resigned himself to his fate. There was a click. The chamber was empty. The bar owner's eyes widened in disbelief. Before he could enjoy the life and death, Niji pulled the trigger again. Click, click, empty twice in a row. The bar owner's eyes almost popped out of his head. The close call between life and death had already broken down his psychological defense. He didn't want to die. I said, bang. The gun went off. There was a trace of smoke coming out of the muzzle of the gun. Niji picked up the gun and blew on it. Wouldn't it be better if I told you earlier? The bar owner, who was handcuffed on the chair, could not stop shaking and twitching. There was a strand of broken hair on his legs, and the middle of his trembling legs gradually became wet. Niji calmly took a step back. Where? Back, upstairs at the back. Bar Zero is a 2-story building with a 5-story old apartment building behind it. It has been in disrepair, and a lot of the walls have fallen off, but the 2 buildings are close to each other. From the rooftop of Bar Zero, you can go directly to the 3rd floor of the apartment building, and the neon signboard of Bar Zero just surrounds the roof, making it impossible to see what's going on above. Pushing open the iron door on the roof, Meow climbed up and looked at the closed window in front. It was getting dark, and colorful neon lights were already lighting up in the distance. Brother Meow, we have arrived. Milo walked around the back of the apartment building and climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. He held a gun in one hand and a pager in the other. Behind him, there were 2 Arkham policemen holding shotguns, looking at the door with vigilant faces. If the bar owner is right, living here is a powerful guy recruited by Maroni to deal with Batman. Niji listened to the voice on the pager and looked up. He couldn't see the moon or stars today. Action! With a loud roar, Niji stomped on the ground and kicked towards a glass window in front. In the apartment building, Milo quickly led his men and rushed toward the door, pointing the shotgun at the door lock and firing. The door lock was broken and the door was kicked open. As soon as Milo led the people in, 2 white arcs suddenly shot over and fell on them all at once. High-voltage current rushed through their bodies, just like sitting on the electric chair before Gotham abolished the death penalty. With a crash, the window glass was smashed by the seedlings and rolled in. The sound of the glass caused the current to be suddenly interrupted. The room was very dark. All the curtains were closed, except for the place where Niji bumped into. The curtains were pulled down, and a ray of light came through. At the door, Milo and the others fell to the ground trembling, foaming at the mouth, and almost smoking from their bodies. As soon as Meow stood up, he felt that something was wrong in the room. It was too quiet and there was a burnt smell in the air. He quickly raised his gun as a warning. Suddenly, a white arc flew over again. Niji hurriedly threw himself down and fell sideways to the ground. The electric arc hit the wall behind him, shattering it with a bang. Without thinking, purely out of muscle memory, Niji raised the pistol and pulled the trigger at the place where the arc struck. Bang, 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 bang. The bullet was fired from the barrel of the gun, but a bizarre scene occurred. Niji only saw 5 arcs of electricity in front of him being pulled apart horizontally. The bullets fired all hit it, like hitting an electric light barrier, losing power. Boo! Niji held the pistol, made a tactical roll, hid behind a single sofa, and quickly changed the magazine. Arc current both. For a moment, Niji really didn't know who the opponent was. It was too ordinary, basically a villain with 2 tricks. Joker's electric shock gloves, Riddler's electric shock cane, and the electrical equipment controlled by the owner of the Zeus Hotel. Who did I think it was? It turned out to be a police officer. Damn it. The man's murderous voice sounded, and he waved his hand this way, and 5 arcs of electricity hit him like chains. Niji reached out and touched the golden 6-pointed star hanging around his neck, and the effect of the eye of true sight was activated. With a 360-degree field of vision around him, he immediately saw the arc chains coming from the air. FK. Niji jumped forward on his hands and knees, as embarrassed as a dog chewing mud. But the place where he was hiding just now was focused on the arc, and the sofa was electrified and burst into flames. The flames suddenly burst out. If he hadn't run away just now, he would be charred now. Damn it. Niji cursed secretly and turned around with the gun. Under the blazing fire of the sofa, the dark room was also illuminated. Niji also saw the figure of that person. The hands are wearing huge amounts of gloves. Each finger has a metal conductive rod. The body is also wearing heavy equipment, and there's a rotating instrument on the chest. He looks like a professional electric fisherman, the kind that left Zero, right, in Fire Thunder Public Helps Me. But in Gotham, this kind of dress, there's only one FG1, the electrocutor. Chapter 60 electrocutor. After confirming that it was an electrocutor, Niji turned around and jumped out of the window. If he read correctly, the equipment on that guy was still very rough, so he should be the first-generation electrocutor. This guy's equipment has been passed down for several generations, and it all uses electric current as an attack method, but it consumes a lot of power. It should be using wires now? Niji jumped onto the roof of Bar Zero. Several arcs of electricity shot out of the window and hit the billboard in front. The neon lights above all lit up under the electric shock. Niji turned around and shot 3 times, moving away from the window, thinking about whether the electrocutor had any special weaknesses. The electrocutor in the room clapped his hands together, and the metal conductive rod above vibrated, and he swung forward violently. The 3 windows in front were all shattered, and dense arcs of electricity shot out from inside. The scene was extremely huge. The price was that all the instruments and meters on his body sounded alarms, and there was a power outage within a kilometer of the apartment building. This move was originally intended to deal with Batman. If you die under this move, it will be an advantage for you. After the electrocutor finished speaking, he raised his head and laughed crazily. This feeling of power really made him want to stop. Really? You stupid A. Niji stood by the wall outside the window, stretched out his hand, and gestured with his middle finger towards the inside of the room. The electrocutor looked at the raised middle finger, with blue veins popping up on his face under the glass cover, and stepped forward. The heavy rubber protective suit on his body restricted his movement, and 2 high-voltage wires like tails were trailing behind him. D. The electrocutor waved his arm, and the electric arc flew out. The sound was completely shot, and Niji had already retracted his hand. Zombie, do you think it's enough to be a turtle? Niji held the pistol, pointed it into the room, squeezed the trigger, emptied the magazine, bang, 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 bang. The electrocutor took 2 steps toward the window, quickly raised his arm, and bullets hit him. The thick anti-electricity rubber sheath acted as a buffer, preventing him from being injured by the bullets. However, this has made him furious. That damn guy is as annoying as a cockroach. Electrocute him. The first-generation electrocutor, Jack Gruber, was a paranoid mental patient who had been treated in Arkham Asylum. He was an electrician by profession and liked the pleasure of electrocuting people to death. Ah! The electrocutor screamed and jumped out of the window. Although he was a mental patient, he was not stupid at all. Instead, he was very smart and had a strong sense of combat. As soon as he landed, he clapped his hands down. Dense currents flashed across the ground like a big net, and the entire roof of the bar was electrified. However, he did not see the figure of seedlings. Hey, Zai, have you ever heard of the palm technique of falling from the sky in one move? Meow Moo climbed up to the 4th floor along the hot air duct, sat on the windowsill above, holding a pair of handcuffs, and shouted. The handcuffs were held in his hands like tigers. When the electrocutor heard the sound and raised his head, Niji jumped down from the building with his feet and punched him from a high position. The insulating glass cover worn on the electrocutor's head suddenly cracked like spider webs, but did not break. It's bulletproof. Niji's eyes widened. He really didn't expect this. He quickly backed away. The electrocutor reacted and looked at the cracks in the glass cover, feeling a chill down his back. The arc in his hand hit the ground again. Seeing the arc coming over like a tide, Meow Moo did a backflip and jumped down from the building. If you fall from 2 floors, you will not die. You would rather fall once than be electrocuted. The electrocutor will definitely electrocute him into a roast chicken. Jason was on the street, holding a grilled hot dog with double cheese sticks, eating it every bite. Niji definitely couldn't let him be present when doing such a ruthless job of confiscating a house. He would either buy a Coke or a hot dog, and then find a place to eat on the street. Dad, I have to go to work, and there's one more thing. Don't run around with strangers, especially old perverts wearing black bat suits. This is what Niji said. Jason was chewing bread, but he didn't run around because he had nowhere to go, and he is also very curious about Niji. In his eyes, Niji is different from those bad policemen. As for the difference, he won't be able to figure out for a while, but the hot dogs are delicious. There was a muffled sound in the alley next to the bar, like the sound of something heavy falling to the ground. Jason quickly went over to take a look. Just now, there were a lot of gunshots going off upstairs. Maybe it was the person Niji wanted to arrest. Jason planned to take action, but he couldn't take someone else's food in vain. Niji, who was holding his back, stood up from a pile of smashed wooden boxes. He looked at Jason at the exit of the alley, then quickly looked up at the roof of the building. The electrocutor was coming. Don't stay here. Run. Niji ran outside quickly, but Jason didn't know what happened, so he stopped there. The electrocutor jumped down from the building, flicked his hands, and the stinging electric current swept through the narrow alley. The wooden boards on the ground floated and were fired outward. Niji ran over, picked up Jason, and ran outside quickly, but people couldn't outrun the electricity. Both Niji's and Jason's hair stood up because of the static electricity, like hedgehog heads. Hold me tight. Meow Moo threw herself to the ground, hugged Jason in her arms, and rolled to the side. The debris swept up by the electric current of the electrocutor flew out of the alley like fired cannonballs. The shop across the street was smashed to pieces. Meow Moo, who had narrowly escaped death, had a gash on his back from a broken board. His police uniform jacket was torn, and the skin and flesh on his back were turned outwards, with blood pouring out. Hey, UBCH, I will definitely kill you today. Meow Moo was also shocked and became angry. The range attack of this BD, Electrocute Man, is too annoying. The key is that pistol bullets have little effect on him. Niji got up from the ground, threw Jason aside, and warned, "Run away." He turned around and ran towards the police car. Jason sat by the wall, looking at the blood on his hands, and then looked up at the torn clothes on Niji's back and the drops of blood. Blood? You? Jason didn't have time to ask. The electrocutor was about to walk out of the alley, but the high-voltage wires behind him had stretched straight, limiting his range of movement. Don't run. The electrocutor screamed loudly, reaching out to remove the high-voltage wires behind him. My grandson just ran away. Don't leave if you dare. Niji got out of the police car, loaded a shotgun in his arms, and retorted without hesitation, just like in a verbal spat. Click, click, load. Niji grabbed another handful of shotgun shells, held in his hand, and rushed over with the shotgun in hand. Damn it, no matter how crazy you are. Niji raised the shotgun, pulled the trigger directly, made a muffled sound, clicked the gun, and fired again. The steel balls fired from the shotgun were fired in a fan shape. The electrocutor had just removed a high-voltage wire and quickly raised his hand to cover it. Densely packed steel balls were fired at him like raindrops. The rubber protective suit on his body also had weak points. Under this saturation attack, he was hit once. The electrocutor screamed in pain, and regardless of covering up, he raised his hand to release the current, and arcs of electricity were emitted from his hand. Niji quickly moved out of the way, and the electric arc hit the ground with a click, creating a black pit on the road. The shotgun was loaded and fired again. The electrocutor roared and rushed forward, and the last high-voltage wire was pulled down by him. White arcs of electricity flashed from his hands, and the electrocutor rushed over like a mad cow. His hands hit a police car outside. The electric light filled the air, and all the glass in the car burst. Niji leaned against the wall of the shop, loading the shotgun, looking at the broken glass hood of the electrocutor. He suddenly had a solution. This solution was still used by Gordon, but it was a little difficult now. Niji loaded the shotgun, looked at Jason standing on the street, hiding behind the trash can, and quickly waved to him to come over. Jason looked like a mad cow, bumping into the electrocution man who was smashing up in Bar Zero and running across the street in 3 steps. Jason, do me a favor. Chapter 61, Explosion and Situation. Who are you looking for? When the electrocutor heard the sound, he quickly turned his head, but the rubber protective suit on his body made him a little slow. Boom, boom, boom. Niji fired 3 shots in a row, and the barrel of the shotgun made a clicking sound. The electrocutor continued his incompetent roar. His hands flashed with electric arcs and struck out, and he also stepped forward. When he rushed out of the bar, Niji suddenly jumped over beside him and swung the shotgun in his hand. When you run out of bullets, just use it as a baseball bat, smashing it out with all its strength. It hit the glass cover on the electrocutor's head firmly, and the shotgun was directly smashed into pieces. The place where the glass cover was originally smashed by the seedlings was directly cracked this time, as if it was covered with a ball of white spider webs. There was a click, and a crack was smashed through it. The electric torturer slapped Meow Moo, sending him flying away and falling to the ground. The wound on his back was torn open again, and Meow Moo gritted his teeth in pain. The adrenaline burst just now, and he didn't feel any pain at all. He didn't even realize that he was injured. Hey, ha ha ha, run away. The electrocutor watched Niji fall to the ground with a happy smile on his face. He clapped his hands together to accumulate electricity. The battery on his body was enough for him to use an ultimate move. He could already see that the guy in front of him, who he hated, had been electrocuted into a piece of pitch-black coke. Niji got up from the ground, holding his back. He felt sticky on his hands, and he knew it was bleeding without even looking at it. Hey, does he take the blame for Batman this time? This guy is looking for Batman. Niji thought to himself. However, he has nothing to worry about with the electrocutor in front of him. His mission is completed. Next, Jason, let him take a good bath. Niji waved his hand forward and shouted loudly. Coming. Jason promised from across the street, holding the wrench in his hand and turning the fire water valve on the street. Fortunately, this is the best commercial street in the Upper East Side. There's a reason why Maroney chose to open a bar here, and the public facilities here can still be used. There's really water in the fire sluice on the roadside. Poof! Fierce water spurted out from the fire sluice, giving the electrocutioner in front a clean bath. As we all know, water conducts electricity. The electrocutor looked at the water droplets falling on his face from the cracks in the glass mask, feeling dazed for a while. The next second, the electric light instantly surrounded the electrocutor. The blazing electric light was like thunder and lightning falling from the sky. There was a rumble like thunder falling on my ears. A white beam of light rose on the spot, followed by huge amounts of explosion. When the explosion sounded, Niji seemed to hear a scream, and then he couldn't see anything. Wow, what's wrong? Jason rubbed his eyes that were flashed by the white light and looked up at the street. Where the electrocutor had stood, there was only a charred, smoking corpse and an unpleasant smell. Jason vomited immediately. This scene was a bit too exciting for him. He had never seen corpses before, but he had never seen such a miserable one. They were all carbonized. Where are the Meow people? Jason originally wanted to ask Meow Moo to come over and take a look, but after scanning around, he didn't see Meow Moo, so he quickly started looking for it. Only then did they realize that Niji was unconscious on the side of the road. The explosion just now had knocked him out. He also underestimated the power of the battery on the electrocutor after it detonated. It was originally intended to short-circuit him. Jason ran over there quickly, but there was someone who got there earlier than him. The man was not tall. He wore a small suit and a white shirt with the collar turned up. He looked a little bit handsome. He was holding an umbrella in his hand and had a big aquiline nose. What do you want to do? Jason watched the man reach out to grab Meow Moo, and like an enraged little beast, he rushed over to protect Meow Moo behind him. Penguin Oswald looked at Jason, who suddenly rushed over and was stunned for a moment. He didn't recognize this little guy, but he knew Niji, and he heard that Maroni's situation was sued by the police. So he came over to take a look and saw the guy who could discharge electricity, who was tormented by Niji. Well, get out of the way first. This guy is injured. I want to take him for treatment. If you are worried, please help me and I will take you with me, Oswald said. However, Jason had a look of disbelief on his face, wandering the streets of Gotham and all kinds of intrigues. Jason had seen too much, so he wouldn't think that someone suddenly had a conscience and would help. He and I are friends. This guy's name is Niji, and my name is Oswald. I have a reputation in the Upper East Side. I won't lie to anyone. I swear on the honor of the Kobit family. Oswald stretched out his hand and said seriously, and then reminded, he is seriously injured and cannot delay any longer. Jason turned around and looked at Niji's torn back and the blood flowing on the ground. Jason was also a loss what to do and panicked. Get out of the way. Oswald came over, threw the umbrella to Jason, stretched out his hand to pull Meow Moo up, carried it on his back, and walked forward. Jason held an umbrella and supported the seedlings.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.